580 Sports Talk coming to you on a Tuesday here in the capital city of Kansas. A lovely afternoon here. Thanks for stopping by. Jake LeBon, Brendan Dorzinski, Dan Lucero with you on this Tuesday. We got a ton of stuff to get to today. We're going to hear from Andy Reid. We're going to hear from Patrick Mahomes, get you the latest news on Travis Kelce's ankle. We'll get to all of that. We will talk a little Chiefs, including what are they going to do now, considering their two best players might not be on the team next year. We will get to that. A lot more to get to. Good old overreaction, proper reaction here on this edition. Some news coming out for Big 12 hoops and KU. What is going to be the punishment after 18,000,
look like this.
18.
It's going to look like this and sound like this. It's a slap on the wrist. If you're watching on the YouTube,
Dan,
you really like that.
Dan, I got nothing.
You really like that.
I don't know. And it's to the point now where I do not care. I really don't. Because it happened so long ago.
Got to imagine that the program is just like, oh my God, just whatever.
Get
Just
over
do something.
with it. And we are going to talk about the Chiefs getting every single call. I mean, it's rigged. The Chiefs get every call. It's just the way it is. NFL fans, we are in cahoots with the officials. Mahomes uses his good old State Farm money. They got
more like the
bag.
Kansas City cheats, folks.
Yeah. Reid pays them off.
Listen,
All right.
All I'm going to tell you.
I'm going to tell you.
When we talk about this at 3 o'clock, it will be the number one. You know, we talk about old money versus new money. Like, new money's going to go out and buy a fancy car and buy the new big gigantic house and the diamond encrusted pool and all that. Old money carries itself a little bit differently. Y'all Chiefs fans are learning your new money. Your new money. Okay? Let me tell you a little something.
Yeah.
There any memes out there of Patrick Mahomes doing a Lambeau leap into or an official doing a Lambeau leap into a crowd of Chiefs fans? Mm-hmm. No,
but we do have the
that exists for Packers fans.
We do have the Mahomes holding up a ref's jersey and a ref holding up a Mahomes jersey.
That used to be Richard Sherman in those.
Yeah.
I remember the days when it was the Cheathawks.
Yeah. So just
I was on the internet for that.
We're gonna get to that. The Chiefs cheat. It's just the way it works. We got all of that coming up. We'll also hear from Michael Swain. So a lot to get to today. Hit us up on the text line. Let us know your thoughts. 785-272-9429. Also, let us know your thoughts on our YouTube page. You can go to youtube.com, type in 580 Sports Talk. Very easy to get to. Click on it. You can watch it. Hit the subscribe button. Let us know what's going on. Love to get your take there. So we got Reid and Mahomes coming up today. But, I was thinking about the Chiefs defense and how it's been really good this year. Matt Verderham said overwhelmingly top 10 defense in the league. Haven't given up over 20 points in a game. I know the Detroit Lions scored 21, but seven of
those came from there.
Did not come from the defense.
By the way, real quick, do you know where the Chiefs rank in DVOA?
13th.
6th. Up from 8th a week ago.
Nice.
I'm sorry, that's team DVOA. I'm sorry, I should have looked at defense specific. Defense 11. So, yeah, right about on the number.
Yeah. And I think they're better than that. I do. I think this Chiefs defense has played very, very well. But if I'm going to ask you this question, who are the two best players on the Chiefs defense right now? Chris Jones, obviously.
Yeah.
That's a given, okay? But who's the second best player on the Chiefs defense right now? Who are you going to go with?
Ooh.
Are you going with Derek Nottie? You going with Brian Cook?
No.
Are you going with...
I'm going with one of the two cornerbacks.
Okay.
And
so you're going to say one of the two, Nottie or Cook?
Yeah, either of those. Yeah, it depends on which way the wind blows. No, I either say it's Trent McDuffie or L'Jarius Sneed.
Okay.
And I think it's interesting to bring up Sneed in this context because I think if you don't watch the Chiefs, he might be the guy that you don't name. He might be the guy that slips your mind if you don't watch the Chiefs.
Correct.
But I think he's maybe gone to another level this season.
Who's your second best player? Michael Bolton.
Michael Bolton.
Yeah.
Oh,
Office Space.
Yeah,
Not the singer.
Hey, man, Steel Bars is a banger. I don't know. Great softball player, Michael Bolton.
Yeah, I mean, Snead is in the run. He's had a great year. I would have said in a vacuum, I would have gone probably McDuffie. But, I mean, Snead has been so good in the last few weeks.
But the reason I bring that up now is we're 5 games into the season, and we know what happened this offseason with Chris Jones, and an extension with Chris Jones is more likely than not going to happen, right? We know that.
Kind of crazy that's the case, isn't it?
Not going to happen. So he's going to hit the free agent market. L'Jarius Sneed's in the same boat. When you look at this Chiefs defense right now, their 2 best players very well could not be on the team next year. Like this might be, the peak of the defensive unit right now for the Kansas City Chiefs for the next couple of years. You don't have a dominant pass rusher like Chris Jones on your team next year unless something else happens. And L'Jarius Sneed might not be on your team. So it got me wondering now, wow, this Chiefs defense, is this the year? Like, is this it? Next year, hard to think the Chiefs defense is going to be better if these 2 guys are not on the team.
Sure.
Right? So I got to thinking about that. Okay, that's kind of a scary situation. How many teams right now can say their 2 best players on defense, that's a playoff team, are not going to be on their team next year? Very rare that you will say that. Very rare.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take a look at this. We don't think that they're going to re-sign Chris Jones. I am still on the boat where go sign him. Like, if there is a way that you can sign him, sign him. I have been on that side from the very beginning. He's 29 years old. Now you've already missed a year to lower his cap hit this year, which that's not a good situation. But I think the Chiefs should have signed him this offseason. Found a way that you could make it work with Chris Jones. I know you got to have 2 equal partners, but that's a whole nother discussion. What about L'Jarius Sneed now? What are you going to do with L'Jarius Sneed? And the reason I bring this up is the Chiefs have the tax or the salary cap money. They've got the money. Now, it depends on how you look at it. Our good friends at Over the Cap and Spotrac have completely different numbers in this situation. I wanted to see how much cap space that they're going to have next year. Right now, Over the Cap has the Chiefs at $48 million in cap space. $48 million. Spotrac right now, which is another website that does all the numbers, has them at $31 million in cap space because they have the cap this coming year at a different number. Okay,
because it's all a projection right now.
All a projection. And maybe Over the Cap thinks it's going to be a little bit more because of the new TV deals kicking in, all of that kind of stuff. Maybe one of them is aggressive. Maybe one of them is, passive. I don't know. But that $17 million is kind of a big number. Doesn't look like you're going to sign Chris Jones. Like, that was going to be a big chunk of your salary cap next year was earmarked for Chris Jones. 28 to 29 million was going to be earmarked for Chris Jones. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. So what do you do now if you are the Kansas City Chiefs? That money's got to go somewhere. Patrick Mahomes, his number's already on the cap, so don't got to worry about that. That's included in these numbers, the new number that Mahomes has with his new restructured situation. And let me ask you this. Next year, are you willing to spend $14 million on MVS to the cap? Yes or no?
That's a no.
Nope.
So that's a no. Okay. Well, it's not $14 million. It's just going to be $2 million because you'll cut him. It's $2 million dead cap. So really, both of these numbers need to be higher because they're not going to keep him for a $14 million cap when you can save $12 million bucks. So add $12 million. That means the Chiefs, according to Over the Cap, have $60 million in cap space or $42 million in cap space for Spotrac. What are you going to do with this money? That is my question if you're not going to sign Chris Jones. Everyone else for the Chiefs is under contract. Now, you're going to lose some guys, right, that you're going to have to replace. You're going to have to go get a defensive tackle because Nadi's going to be gone. You're going to have to go get probably another linebacker. Do you take some of that money and you give it to L'Jarius Sneed? Do you give that money to Creed? Do you give that money to Trey Smith?
Do an extension for Nick Bolton?
What do you do with that? That's for the Chiefs to have $60 million in cap space next year, if that is the correct number from Over the Cap. They've never had that much money in cap space before. But here's the big problem is there is really not a whole lot of help. And we've already researched this, but I've got the links on our rundown here. There's not a whole lot of dudes at edge and not a whole lot of dudes at D tackle coming up. So you right now, to me, I'm now leaning towards keeping L'Jarius Sneed. I was more get to the quarterback. That's number one. And if you can't get to the quarterback, you really better have good secondary help. You got to be really good in the secondary if you can't get to the quarterback. It sure looks like the Chiefs are going to go like this for next year. You got Karlaftis. You hope he continues to improve. You hope Amenahu, once he gets back here after this game against the Denver Broncos, he's going to be a pass rusher. You got Enudike Uzama, right? No Dana either.
No, he's going to walk.
So when you look at what are the Chiefs going to do, I'm on board with keeping Sneed now because I don't know how much he is going to cost because he's playing like a much better cover corner this year instead of the more very niche specific Spags corner that blitzes and plays the slot and all that kind of stuff. So a part of me is thinking, you know what, man, maybe you keep Sneed, at a decent contract. And you pair him up and you just roll with Sneed, McDuffie, Watson, Najee Johnson, Josh Williams, and you just keep this band together for a couple of years, and that's what you're going with. But there's a good chance that both of the two best players for the Chiefs defense are not going to be on the Chiefs next year. And that is why this year, to me, now becomes even more important of a win now mode if I don't see how the Chiefs defense can be better if both of these guys are gone next year.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, the reason that it's interesting with regards to Sneed is it has not ever at any point felt like the Chiefs looked at him and thought, this is a guy that we need to make sure is part of our core moving forward. And there were two reasons we thought that. Number one was we hadn't heard a peep about contract extension before the expiration of his rookie deal. And on one hand, like, you don't want to do that if you don't have to. And you're talking about a guy on a fourth round. Well, he's a fourth round pick.
Fourth rounder.
So he's on a fourth round salary for this year. Why add to that salary burden with a contract extension? Why add to that cap number if you don't have to? If you've got him, like, that's the point of getting a guy in the fourth round that's useful. That's the advantage, right? You don't want to misplay that advantage. But the other part too was, remember, L'Jarius Sneed barely practiced during training camp.
Yeah. And the fact that he's playing this well is impressive.
And yeah, it's not just that he's playing, that he's out there. It's that he's playing this well, that he was the guy. When Steve Spagnuolo was talking about matching up against Justin Jefferson, he didn't say, yeah, we want to get Trent McDuffie on him. He said, we want to get LJ on him. We want to make sure L'Jarius Sneed is on Justin Jefferson as often as possible. That, to me, spoke volumes about how they view L'Jarius Sneed right now as a piece on their defense. And it says to me that if they're going to have this level of salary cap room next year, that they may make him a very high priority just because they didn't get an extension done. If he stays healthy and plays at this level, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a very high priority for them going into next offseason.
See, I would offer the alternate perspective. The Chiefs just drafted 2 defensive backs this year, including one whose profile
Shamari Connor,
is L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah.
And while Sneed still fits the age range where the Chiefs have been willing to sign players, like, he's going to be 27 next season. He turns 27 on January 21st. Like, they signed Tyrann Mathieu at that age. They signed him there, so they're willing.
Yeah, because you get to your 29-year season. It could be a 3-year deal.
3-year deal, yeah. They'd be content with that given past precedent. But the fact that they've drafted 2 guys who you assume they think can play, they've hit time after time after time on those day 3 defensive backs, and the fact that Sneed's got a knee concern. Like, other than the fact that he is, he's been a full participant, he's played, he hasn't missed major time this year. Like, we never got a whole lot of clarity on, like, so how serious actually is this knee injury for L'Jarius Sneed at any point? That, to me, those 2 signs to me plus the fact that we have not heard a word except for Patrick Mahomes saying, this is a guy who you win with. You want to have guys like him, not even like him. Like, we specifically like L'Jarius Sneed. That's the only word we've heard from it. That would lead me to believe the Chiefs are going to just keep firing shots at day 3 defensive backs and seeing if they can connect.
I mean,
because it's worked so far.
And they've people forget, and this is why, it's nice to have, the people plugged in like the Matt Derricks and Mitch Holthus and his Chiefs training camp reports. Folks, Najee Johnson was a starter above Josh Williams and Jalen Watson going into this year. Like, during camp. Like, that's another guy. Don't forget, I know he's got an ACL, and most people come back from the ACL and they're pretty the same, but that's just another guy when you include, we got McDuffie, Watson, Williams, and Najee Johnson. But what are they going to do with this money? Is a trade coming? Are they going to invest more in the offensive line and say, hey, we're really going to pay our offensive line? We'll pay 3 guys. That's all we're going to pay. We're not going to pay any more. So does that mean that they're going to pay, Tooney, Taylor, and then pick one between Creed and Trey Smith? You can't pay 4 offensive linemen. You can't do it, in my opinion. Unless Creed's going to take, a little bit less, or Trey Smith takes a little bit less. I don't know. But the sheer fact that next year's, next year's problems, right? But for this year, if both Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed are not here next year, that's going to hurt the defense next year. That makes this year that much more important to me. Like, this is kind of, was it Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed's last dance with the Chiefs, to be honest with you, because one, we saw what happened with Chris Jones this offseason with the holdout and everything. And there's been absolutely radio silence for L'Jarius Sneed, which that's what makes you think that it won't happen. So what are they going to do with $40 million potentially?
See, I think I would push back, though, that there's no way it's going to be better next year, because it's never going to be better until it is. Or it couldn't possibly be worse until it is. Like, that's the NFL. There are so many different things that could influence whether it's a better unit or a worse unit year to year.
Did you think L'Jarius Sneed had this level, like, going into this season, given that he did not participate hardly at all in the preseason and did not participate at all in training camp? Did you think that we would be talking 5 weeks into the season about L'Jarius Sneed being the best cover corner on the Kansas City Chiefs? Or even him being included in the conversation? It's not that I thought he was going to be all of a sudden a bad player, but the injury felt like a real concern if he couldn't even get out there for training camp. And we know how much the Chiefs and Andy Reid value being present for training camp, being on the field during training camp. For Sneed to not just be playing, but playing at this level, and playing at this level with a skill set that maybe we've underrated with regards to L'Jarius Sneed, because when we look at him, we think slot corner. We think those blitzes off the edge. We think about him being disruptive at the line of scrimmage. We have not considered L'Jarius Sneed as being the guy you line up against somebody else's number 1 wide receiver and put a seatbelt on him for 60 minutes. But clearly that's what Steve Spagnuolo thinks of L'Jarius Sneed. So maybe the evaluation of Sneed in that Chiefs front office or in the Chiefs coaching room has changed.
Maybe it is. I thought L'Jarius Sneed was a better cover corner than what people gave him credit for. And we'll see what happens the rest of this year. The knee could be a concern. I just, not many teams have their 2 best players not under contract for next year. That just normally doesn't happen in the NFL. And that's why this year, boy, this defense is playing awesome. I mean, this was the dream. This is the dream for the Chiefs and Chiefs fans, is that, wow, we got a defense. We do. It just so happens that the defense we have is not going to be the same next year, because potentially 2 of the most important guys are not going to be there.
Put a percentage on it for both of them.
Oh, I think Chris Jones, I'll put at 5%. Never
that low.
I'll never put it at a 0. Unless something dramatically. He's not going to sign a deal right now, because you're so close to free agency, and they do have the money to tag him, because a lot of people are like, well, they're not going to put $30 million down there to tag him. to keep up the books. No, they've got the room, so you could tag him. You know, that number is on your books, and then when you trade him, that number comes off your books. Pretty simple. You get your draft pick back. I think L'Jarius Sneed is a little bit higher. I think it's more like 35% that they could re-sign L'Jarius Sneed.
Okay.
I just don't see the Chiefs going back. I think the Chiefs said, and there's not going to be any conversation between Chris Jones and the Chiefs the rest of the way, unless for some odd reason the Chiefs are like, yeah, here's $30 million.
Sure. I get you.
Are you the same? What's your number?
I don't know that I would go as low as 5%. I would put it a little bit higher than that. I think.
Like
I think
7%.
I think that the way that the holdout ended seemed to indicate that at no point was Chris Jones like bluffing about wanting to be with the Chiefs.
No.
Like he meant it the whole. I wouldn't put it at 50-50, but a little higher than 5. I don't know, 15, 20%.
So what about Sneed?
Sneed, 25, 30,
yeah,
somewhere in there.
So
I just think, given the Chiefs' track record of adding corners for nothing and hitting time after time after time after time, I think if you could say, hey, we trust our what do we trust more? Our evaluation or this guy whose knee injury we know more about than anyone else? And maybe that is the reason why they do re-sign him, because I'm overestimating how concerning the knee is.
Well, if you're Sneed, you're not gonna sign with the Chiefs right now. There's zero reason Sneed's gonna sign.
No,
with the
you got to
Chiefs.
play for that future bag. Yeah,
you gotta. They're not gonna.
You
Tag
play at an all-pro level the rest of the way.
Yeah.
You're gonna get tons of money.
You're not. The Chiefs are not gonna be first in line. Someone's gonna throw him a big. At least the contract that they have for Spotrac is only like $35 million.
Interesting.
Which I thought it would be much higher than
interesting.
that.
Chiefs
Much
could tag
higher.
him too.
No, well, then you're not. Then you're letting Chris Jones walk.
Yeah.
Then you don't get a player for Chris Jones until the
Maybe
next draft, when you get a 3rd round compensatory pick.
Maybe you give Chris Jones the bag he's looking for.
Hey, I'm okay with giving Chris Jones the bag. I am team give Chris Jones money.
There's a lot of ways this could go, but the fact that we're talking about L'Jarius Sneed in these terms, it represents a pretty positive development for where we thought he might be, given his injury issue in training camp.
We'll get a quick timeout. Coming up next, we're going to hear from Andy Reid. We'll hear what Big Red had to say to the media, and then we'll talk a little bit more around the NFL here on 580 Sports. Back into 580 Sports Talk. Jake, Dan, Brennan with you. We heard from Patrick Mahomes. He was asked about Russell Wilson and gave glowing remarks to Russ.
I'm sure he did.
It's glowing remarks to Russ. It is wild that the Chiefs play in 2 days. The Thursday game really creeps up on you. Really, really does.
Yeah.
Especially when Thursday games are normally against good teams.
It's been going on long enough. You think we'd be used to the whole idea of a full season of Thursday Night Football? I don't think I'll ever get used to it.
It's so quick.
No, it used to be just Thanksgiving and after, right?
Yeah.
It was like 5 weeks of it. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
It used to literally only be Thanksgiving, but
But we've had everyone's done a Thursday game. I want to say for like 4 years now. It's been for
it's been a while,
maybe even longer than that. To be honest with you,
yeah. I mean, the Chiefs usually play the Chargers on Thursday. That's usually what their matchup
I
is.
know.
Yeah.
I like this bet.
I guess it's all divisional games because they played the Raiders on Thursday before a couple times.
Wasn't the Mahomes knee game against Denver? That was a Thursday nighter too.
Yeah.
Was it? I thought it was.
Yeah, in Denver.
Yeah, it was in Denver.
Because I remember being behind one of these microphones and saying, because I think the Chiefs were coming off a loss, and I said, Denver's going to run them to death in the altitude, and Kansas City's in trouble in this game. And then Reggie Ragland intercepted Joe Flacco, and Flacco played like the worst game you could possibly play.
Joe Flacco.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, we went through yesterday the list of the top 12 things the Broncos have gotten wrong from a Broncos fan. And they were right about all of them. And one of them was just a list of bad veteran quarterbacks they brought in.
They've made so many bad decisions.
Flacco was like 33, 34 when the Broncos signed him. And John Elway at the press conference was like, this is a quarterback who's very much still in his prime.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, he did.
What?
Yeah, they advanced Joseph being hired on here twice.
Man, they were bad.
Randy Gregory made the list.
He's not there no more.
George Payton only 8th, though. Too low.
George Payton is responsible for almost all of
this
bad decision, every bad decision in the last 3 years.
Yeah. I don't know how he has a job after.
There's never been a deader GM walking in history than George Payton.
Well, that tells you why having an owner who doesn't meddle but is at least willing to say I'm going to make a decision is very useful.
Yeah.
Broncos didn't have one for a while.
Well, no. Yeah, that's a sad situation, to be honest with you.
Number one bag fumble.
Blood of the city.
Man. Wow. All right. Andy Reid met with the media today. Big Red spoke on a lot of different topics. Here's what Andy Reid had to say.
Look forward to the challenge of playing the Broncos. Again, we know how this league is. I mean, everybody's got talent and good coaching, and so we welcome them into Arrowhead here. And they've got a lot of talent on that team. Our guys have looked at the tape. They understand that. And Sean is a heck of a football coach, which we all know. And he's got two coordinators I think are tremendous in Lance and Joe. So a lot of coaching experience and then a lot of playing experience there. And so our guys have had a good day of preparation yesterday, and they'll have another day today that we can work on things. Again, it's a little bit of a cram course when you work on Thursday night, but the guys have been real good about it, and I've spent a lot of time up to this point on the game plan. So with that time period.
Travis then came through okay the past couple of days.
Yeah, he's done well. He's got quite a little bit of treatment on it, and so he's feeling a little bit better, which is good. Yeah.
On that subject, are you tempted, since it's a short turnaround, do you treat it a little bit different, more precaution with him?
I'm gonna just see the how he moves around, how he feels. He's been he's always been honest with me on things like that. So we'll just see how he does. But he's doing okay out there today. So we'll see where it goes from.
Does it help with a game that's so short that you have an opponent that you're pretty familiar with in Denver? Does that help, or is there just things that you try to, over the years of doing this Thursday night game?
Yeah, well, we know their personnel. It's but the scheme is different, just with the coaching change. But they're I don't know if it helps or hurts. I don't know. I'll tell you after the game. But I I know when we play them, it's always close and, a good, hard-fought game. So I'm expecting that.
Andy, do you even mention to the team to go on a winning streak, or it just doesn't come up?
Yeah, I don't talk about it. I mean, doesn't matter, right now. It's just, that doesn't count for Thursday, right? So,
They know that so well, you don't even have to.
yeah, I don't even talk about it.
And Coach, why have you guys been so successful over the past few years?
Yeah, well, they've had some change there, so this is a whole new crew, and they've, like I said, they've been close. Most of them have been very close games, and so we, you just gotta throw the record aside and you go play, and that's kind of the way this, the AFC West is. It's we all battle each other.
Andy, how much game planning can you do with just one full day of practice? I know you have walkthroughs, but just one day on the field.
Yeah. Well, we went out there yesterday and walked around, did that part. But we can do, decent amount. The guys, we banked enough during training camp and OTAs. It's kind of a refresher from there. So.
You're always a league first guy. Just from a league perspective, are you a fan generally of Thursday night games? Is there any kind of benefit to it?
Yeah, I'm a fan like today because we've got the game plan in. So getting it to that point is tough. Takes quite a few hours, but I'm okay with it. I mean, I understand it. I think the players get charged up over it, and I know you guys asked Travis that question, and he was very positive about the answer there. So my main concern goes with the players and just see how they feel. And as coaches, we're not getting beat up, out there, so we can push ourselves through it.
And do you ever feel like your players are as prepared for a Thursday night game as they would be for a regular Sunday game?
Well, you hope they are, but you obviously have more time on to prep for that game. So naturally, they'd probably be a bit more prepared there. But I know they bust their tail to make sure they have the game plan down.
Is it you get in the competition for me? Like I know, like Jacksonville had 2 weeks to get ready for Buffalo. I know that doesn't concern you here, but there are those little, if you add an extra week to the season, add an extra bye, like things like that get discussed as possibility to maybe make it more fair for both teams each game.
Yeah, I think the league does a great job. They don't let much slip, on talking about it. So, and so they've hit on those subjects, and they're pretty strong on all that stuff. And how they look at it from every angle, medical standpoint, like what from location and so on. So it comes down to you have 17 of these babies to play, and you got to make sure you're right for each one. And that's bottom line. It doesn't matter day or whatever, night, day of the week, where we're playing. I mean, you have to be ready. That's the bottom line.
Andy, from you and your coaching staff, is it better to have a Thursday game kind of at this point in the season when you have more tape than, say, like a year ago when you had just one game and it was a divisional opponent on Thursday night?
Yeah, I'll probably tell you that about every game. You get through the first 4 games, at least you have an idea of what guys, are going to throw at you, at least somewhat of an idea. So, but again, I'd say that about any game. So to answer your question, yeah, I mean, it's better to have it a little bit later, I think.
How much have you enjoyed competing against Sean in the past? And
yeah.
I know you were busy focusing on the Super Bowl at the time, but his comments back then were that he was most excited to face you.
Yeah, he's a good coach, and we're all in it for the competition. Yeah. And so I appreciate the job he does, and look forward to having an opportunity to play against him again.
Andy, I recognize that defenses often take away the back end, but how would you just assess your execution on the few opportunities you do get the deep passing game?
Yeah, we haven't had a lot presented to us there, but we've done some good things. There are a couple we'd like to have back. I think we'll see at the end of the year how it all works out. But right now you're probably we've had, like I said, there's some good ones and some ones we've been off it too.
Andy, with Justin Ross, more targets in the last game. Where you see him going forward with this offense, it seems like they're trying to get him more. Patrick Mahomes even mentioned try to fire it to him. How do you feel?
Yeah, I think he's getting better. I mean, the young guys seem to be getting better every day. They have a chance, and so it's just a matter of experience. And there's one way of getting that, and that's getting tossed in there and seeing how you do. So he's had a couple of real nice ones, and he's had a couple he'd like to have back, but hopefully grows from that and keeps progressing like he has been.
Couple more guys.
Andy, aside from, the Dolphins, they're scoring bananas on the Broncos. They've been in close games just in their first few games. Just what have you seen from them on film?
Yeah, so they're talented on really both sides of the ball. And I think they're just getting kind of used to the whole new process that they're going through. So, but I think they've got talent and good coaching, and I think our guys see that. We know it from a coaching standpoint because we know the coaches, but I think the players can put on the tape and they see, that there's a lot of skill there and it's a good scheme and all that stuff. So.
Last one, Matt.
Coach Payton told us a few years ago that he always watches your game film every week of your offense. How closely do you watch what Sean's doing?
Yeah, well, he's one of the, I think great offensive minds in the game. So we take a peek at his stuff too. So it's we all steal from each other.
Senate head coach Andy Reid met with the media today. Big thing there is that Travis Kelce did work today and taped it up. Practiced a little bit today. Rehab it tomorrow. He's going to be, I think, ready to roll.
I'm sure he will be.
Yeah, I think he plays Thursday. I do. And then you give him the mini bye. I'll be more interested to know what they do with Nick Bolton. Do they just give him one more week? Because this injury has lingered now. This is almost, you could argue they should have IR'd him because this would have been 4 games that he's going to miss if he doesn't play this week. So that's something to wonder what they're going to do with Nick Bolton when it comes to the injury aspect of it. So that's what Big Red had to say to the media today. That and the Broncos are excellent and their defense is really good. I do think because it is a Thursday night game that this will be a lot closer than a lot of people think. What's the line right now?
10.5 is what I last saw. I can tell you that according to the consensus, it is still 10.5.
Like right now, I kind of would lean the Broncos in the points.
So at the moment, according to the insights from Vegas Insider, 53% of bets are on the Chiefs to cover the spread. However, 67% of the money is on the Broncos to cover the spread. So the wise guys are on Sean Payton and the Broncos.
Yeah. Last year were 2 games that the Chiefs kind of had to survive.
Yeah,
to win.
Denver, and both of those. No, just one of them was a Nathaniel Hackett game because it wasn't the second one.
Second game was the last game of the year that they had to win. That was when Bolton scooped and scored.
No, that was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah, you're thinking of
Drew Lock couldn't chase down Nick Bolton.
They played the Broncos week 17.
Yeah,
so
that was a Jerry Rosberg game. That was not a Nathaniel Hackett game. But
wasn't he the clock guy?
Yes, he was Clippy.
Yeah,
he was the guy they brought in after 2 weeks because Nathaniel Hackett couldn't count to 40 or thought a timeout was a snack food.
The Broncos had 190 passing yards in that game.
But it was a close game.
Russell Wilson, I think, rushed for 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, that was a close game.
27-24. Yeah, Broncos ran for I'm sorry. Wilson passed for over 200. They only had 190 because the Chiefs had 4 sacks.
The other thing that is important to note about last year's meetings is that in those games, the Denver Broncos had a top 10 defense in the NFL. And in Thursday night's game, the Broncos have the worst defense that maybe has ever existed.
Okay, so it was a 10-point game a 2-score game in the fourth quarter. The Broncos scored with 6 minutes left. Which, 6 minutes is not nothing, but the Chiefs were in control for a lot of that second half.
Yeah, and then in the first meeting, that was the game where Mahomes threw the 3 weird picks in the second half.
2 to the linebacker.
Yeah, kind of like the Jets game that we just saw, where they're in full control and then Mahomes shuts his brain off for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't do that this Thursday.
Long as he doesn't, I'm not sure I see a path for the Broncos.
The Broncos defense was like Peyton Manning his last year, like good, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, they don't know what to do. They look terrible. They can't rush the passer. They can't stop the passer. They can't tackle. They can't do anything.
No, they're bad at everything.
Yeah.
Which, Doug Farrar has a piece, the Touchdown Wire on USA Today, looking at some of the film. And it is rare that a bad defense is that bad at both. Like, usually you're a bad defense, but like, hey, you're okay against the pass. It's just teams run you to death. Or you're pretty decent against the run. You just can't stop the passing game. No, they stink at both.
Yeah, man. Did not see that coming. I definitely didn't. Coming up.
Oh, I did not see that coming.
I didn't see that one coming.
Anchorman was on cable again last night. That line was fresh in my mind. Instant watch every time.
I don't watch much cable anymore.
Well, that's because I'm awake at 1 a.m. and
true.
You're not.
That is very true. I went to bed right after Jordan Love threw his 3rd interception. I stayed up that long. Thought they might have a chance. Got to throw it a little higher to your big 6'4" guy. Coming up.
Well, it also would probably be good if that 6'4", 230-pound guy didn't get bodied by someone shorter than
that's true.
Like he was 5'9".
Yeah,
he got bodied by a 5'9" corner.
He got pushed back.
It's fine.
You gotta jump up and go get her.
It's fine. We're bad. It's fine.
They were not good last night.
They bad team right now. We can talk more about this after the break.
We'll get into
I need to take a breath.
We'll finish up the 2 o'clock hour coming up. We'll get to the Chiefs getting all the calls. They are the beneficiary of the refs. Dan alluded to it in the 2 o'clock hour, started this hour. The Kansas City Chiefs. So we'll talk about the Chiefs getting all the calls, and you're just gonna deal with it, NFL fans and the team. So like Broncos fans right now, we're gonna get the calls, okay? It's just how it works. So we'll get to that coming up. Random question Tuesday, we'll hear from Mahomes as well. But two big injury news today when it comes to the NFL. Justin Jefferson put on IR for the Vikings. So the Vikings season's over. Feel bad for the Vikings. You went from a 12-4 team that didn't win a playoff game last year to now you are 1-4, and you lost the best player, best wide receiver in the NFL. So that's a bummer for the Vikings.
Fell from top 10, did not mention it all.
Whew. You know what's funny is we joked about it last year that they won, what were they, 7-1 in one-score games? You know, most of the time, you know, what we say, water finds its level, things even out over time. Well, we didn't think that then they'd go, you know, over in one-score games this year. Like most of the time it'd be like they went 7-1 this year, mix of, you know, like 5-4, you know, 4-3, and then it's like, oh, then they struggled, went 1-5. No, it's the flat out they just can't win any close games now. But Jefferson being out is interesting. I wonder what they're gonna do. Do you think anybody would go after Cousins as a trade?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the Jets
should. Jets are an interesting one for sure.
I think Cousins, because he's going to be a free agent at the end of this year, is a very good possibility that he ends up somewhere else.
You only have to pay a prorated part of his salary,
half of this year.
So
I think that's doable.
The Jets are the one that make the most sense. If there was an injury somewhere, I think you know, a team that was in contention would obviously go after him. You know, I'm trying to look right now at who could possibly use someone. I mean, the Jets honestly make the most sense.
Yeah.
I
don't even
Pittsburgh, Atlanta, those two teams are at 3-2, but could use QB upgrades.
I could see that. I'll give you one that's a little bit off the board here. And I mean, they didn't play this week, and that division is weak, but to get to the playoffs, if Baker Mayfield went down, I think it would make sense for Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Because I will tell you this. Baker Mayfield has been on 4 teams in 3 years. He's playing well, but he's been on 4 teams in 3 years, and he still won their quarterback battle without really much competition at all from Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask ain't an NFL player. He's just not. So if they are hoping to win that division and they want to get to the playoffs and Mayfield went down, I think Tampa would be a team to watch. But other than that,
the other big injury...
Seahawks, you lose Geno, you gonna ride with Locke?
I think they like Drew Lock.
No, I mean, he knows the system.
The other big injury.
Got a good running back to help him out.
Yeah.
The Miami Dolphins
lost
their speedster. They haven't put him on IR, but according to the Miami Dolphins, Devon Achane got banged up, and he's going to miss a few weeks. And the reason I bring this up is the Chiefs play the Dolphins 3 weeks from Sunday. So if they do put him on IR, they wouldn't have him for the game against the Chiefs, which is I think why they're not going to. I think the hope for them, because he's been a huge factor for the Dolphins and their, you know, speed demons, is, hey, can we get this guy back for the Chiefs game? I think that's their hope. That's why they're not putting him on IR. Otherwise, if it was somebody other than the Chiefs, and then you've got the bye week, because the Dolphins have the bye week after the Chiefs, just, you know, when you go overseas and play in Germany, you get the bye week the next week. Makes sense to put him on IR right now and give him time. Plus, you get the extra bye week. But because it's the Chiefs, I don't think they're going to. It's interesting, though.
Yeah. Amazing how fast that dude is. It's kind of unfair that they have, like, of the 10 fastest guys in the league, of the 2 fastest guys in the league, they might have 1 and 2.
Yeah, they do. And then Jalen Waddle's the slow guy. And Mostert's fast.
Yeah, Mostert can really run.
I think it's something like 6 of the top 7, or maybe all 7 of the fastest sprint speeds in the league this year are Dolphins.
No, I think they all.
It's Mostert, Achane, and Hill are all make up the top 7. And Waddle hasn't played a whole lot, and he hasn't registered yet. He's the slow one. Jalen Waddle is the slow guy. It's insane.
That's like, you know, on our group, you know.
Oh,
we're all about, you know, kind of the same speed. You know, we're all fast.
I've never ever been accused of being fast.
How about that?
Nice.
Yeah. One of us is like that. So there we go. Someone's got to be the slow one, right?
Yeah.
But we're all super fast.
580 Sports Talk Combine coming next April.
I've been saying this.
Absolutely. Coming up next, the Chiefs get all the calls. Sports Talk, hour number 2 on this Tuesday. Thanks for stopping by. Jake LeBon, Brandon Dworzinski, Dan Lucero with you.
You're welcome. Stopping by.
Appreciate it. For all of you, those in radio land and the internet world and cyberspace, thanks for stopping by.
On the information
Cyberspace.
superhighway.
Yeah, cyberspace.
This is a
Shout
CBS
out-
This Morning segment from 1999.
Shout out to Bill Snyder in cyberspace.
Anyone who's visiting us on the World Wide Web.
Yeah. Yes. Shout out Bill Snyder.
Visit us at http://
580 wibw.com, or you can go to YouTube. Go to youtube.com.
Find us on Netscape.
Netscape Navigator, baby. Boy, that
The
was
OG.
the original.
the OG browser. Today, y'all had AOL or
Oh, yeah.
we had Prodigy.
Whoa.
Yeah, we had AOL. Oh, yeah.
AOL keyword 580 Sports Talk.
Yes. Yep. Babe, way back in the day.
CompuServe. Anybody about that life? Checking box scores on CompuServe.
Man, that one predated me.
I remember that one. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Read our Usenet forum.
Netscape Navigator.
ESPN Net.
Part of the Go network. I remember that.
I think it is still ESPN.go.com.
Yeah, no, in my phone, if I
It
have to find
really
a
is.
password, it's under Go.
Yeah, part of the Go network. I remember that. I had to say that. Part of the Go network. Yeah. So thanks for stopping by. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up with text 785-272-9429. Especially Chiefs fans who right now feel the need to defend the kingdom. Because right now, congratulations, Chiefs fans. You are now, with the addition of Taylor Swift joining the kingdom, because now you've got Swifties along with the Chiefs kingdom. As we have learned on our text line, that there are several people out there who dislike Taylor Swift. Very
lot.
much, very much so. We have found that out via the text line. And now you add in the Chiefs are winning, and now apparently they get every single call, like every one of them, every single call. And Chiefs fans still feel the need to respond to, Joe Smith 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 on social media defending the kingdom. I cannot tell you enough how I don't know who you are or what your day job is or your values, beliefs, all of that. But you are wasting your time talking to people on the internet defending the kingdom and defending the Chiefs when it comes to the officials. This is just how it works. The Chiefs are the new Patriots. They are, right? They are. The difference is that Mahomes is a little bit more likable than Brady is right now.
As far as we know, Patrick Mahomes has eaten a strawberry.
Yes.
Has not tried to get millions of his fans signed up for that funny money.
Yeah. Or, the Chiefs have not, done Spygate and all of that kind of stuff, right?
No deflated football.
No, none of that. So that's kind of the reason why is because Mahomes right now is pretty squeaky clean, whereas Brady, not so much when they were, building that. But the one thing that bothers Chiefs fans is the false narrative. That is one thing that Chiefs fans really get they get upset, and the reason why is Chiefs fans when they watch the Chiefs, according to the internet, tells me that
One lies on the internet.
they get all the calls, every one of them. Like, people are, and we'll go with the most recent call was the pass interference call that was then picked up, and they didn't call Snead taking off his helmet.
Can I say something about that before we move any further?
Yes, yeah.
So that's the rule, right? Like if you take off your helmet within the field of play, you are supposed to, it is unsportsmanlike conduct, foul. You're supposed to be penalized 15 yards. My question for people who are still crying about that not being a flag 3 days on is, were you a hall monitor in middle school? Because that's the only reason I can think that you saw what L'Jarius Sneed did and you're outraged that wasn't a flag. If a guy takes his helmet off in celebration to taunt, 15 yards, absolutely. If a guy rips off his helmet and he throws it and he's yelling and screaming at the officials, absolutely throw the flag. L'Jarius Sneed took off his helmet, walked toward the officials, and asked him, "What did I do?" And the officials responded to that by saying, "Yo, dude, put your helmet back on. Otherwise, we're going to have to flag you." It's, I think, okay sometimes to
use a little discretion,
use the spirit of the law.
Yeah.
And the spirit of the law was not violated in that moment by L'Jarius Sneed. And even if it had been, the Chiefs would have still gotten the ball anyway, so shut up.
So what I look for
nerds
is
hall go monitors. Back in your locker.
First of all,
give me your lunch money.
If they did decide to call the penalty, as CBS did a very good job with Territor, said, yes, if they would have thrown the flag, the Chiefs still get the football because the play was over. It was done. It was after the play that they took the helmet off, right? So the whole where the Vikings got the football, that is X's and O's, right? Also, we do know that the Vikings pump in the fake crowd noise. And that was so evident listening to Mitch and the gang talk about that. They're like, it's just so loud in here and it's just fake noise. Now, there have been some people said that L'Jarius Sneed took off his helmet because he said, I can't hear you. And that's why he took off his helmet to hear the official. But they didn't. They picked up the flag on the pass interference. And the reason why was because the ball was about 15 yards in the middle of the field, and L'Jarius Sneed, and I don't remember the wide receivers.
It was Addison.
Yeah,
it was Addison.
It was near the pylon. Okay.
Now, I think that the officials said that they picked up the flag because the ball was tipped, which it wasn't.
No.
But that's a reviewable play if you have a challenge or a timeout, which the Vikings did because they burned all those with 9 minutes left in the second half. So be mad at your coach. Be mad at the fates that have made the Minnesota Vikings, but they didn't pick up that flag on L'Jarius Sneed because, I don't know, there's a 14-year-old Swiftie in Dubuque, Iowa that will only watch the NFL and be a lifelong fan of the Chiefs in this game.
But I want to bring this up. This is a stat that you can figure out, and it points out that the Chiefs actually are the least benefited penalty team in the league. They are the least benefited team according to penalties. 19 when it comes to the beneficiary count, yards 147. Other teams that have low beneficiary counts, Philadelphia Eagles.
So this is how often a penalty has helped your team.
Correct.
I think that's clear.
Yeah.
Important to clarify.
Yeah. So the Chiefs do not get benefited a whole lot.
Well, here's the other thing that's stupid about penalty talk is that because it always gets pointed out, well, we got called for 8 penalties, you got called for 1. Seems like something is wrong here. All right, you know what? I'll give you a cross-sport comparison, okay?
I know where you're going.
This is like in a basketball game. This is when Bob Huggins is yelling at a ref, and he says, Kansas only got called for 8 fouls, you got called for 30. Well, yeah, dude, you took pull-up jumpers for 40 minutes, and Kansas threw the ball in the post every single possession. Of course you're not going to get foul calls. You're taking threes and jumpers all day. That's just how the game works. You can't say, well, the Chiefs only got called for 3 penalties, and we got called for 8. Okay, well, let's theorize. What if all 3 of those penalties against the Chiefs were bad calls, and on the Vikings, just a random team, that you actually should have called 5 more penalties? It should have been 13-0. That's where that argument falls apart immediately, because there's usually no actual baseline unless you, Joe Fan, and I guarantee you, Joe Fan, are not doing this, are going to go through your Pro Football Focus, and you're going to chart every single player every single game to say, oh, no, hold, which is also impacted because 99% of people don't know what holding actually is.
Correct.
98, maybe we'll be generous. 98,
including Sauce Gardner.
Yes, but players. The rule book is so complicated. Most players do not know a lot of the very intricate parts of the rule. They just know if I do this, I'm going to get flagged. If I don't do this, I'll get flagged. This hook is dumb. It is always dumb. And as I teased earlier, as someone who is a fan of a team that has been a winner for not championships necessarily, but has won a lot of games and a lot of divisions my entire life.
Did you know that the Packers have been to the playoffs the most in NFL history?
I believe that.
Packers and Cowboys.
I believe that. Yeah. Like, when you win a lot, people that don't like you are going to say you're cheating and the refs are cheating and all of that. They're going to post a picture of Mahomes and the ref doing the jersey swap or of a referee doing the Lambeau leap after a controversial. Like, that's just what happened. I think it is going to only be worse with the fact that now Joe Fan can also gamble on games. And now he can say, oh, I can't believe that parlay 9 of my 18-leg supercharged double boost parlay did not hit because of that penalty. I bet on under 69.5 penalty yards on the Vikings, and I can't believe I lost. That has only made these conversations worse. Super mega boosted, like Jamie Foxx type that up to. Like that is only going to make the discourse about this worse. But in reality, it's the same as it's always been. Fans don't know. I swear to God, refs sometimes don't even know all the intricacies. Players certainly don't know. And there's no way to judge it. Like it's like conspiracy theories. Like, oh, well, this could have happened. And if you want to plug in, connect all these 18 dots, then this all makes sense. Yeah, sick. I bet if you took a ton of drugs, that would make a lot of sense too. But in reality, to people who watch the game, no, you're talking out of your ass.
The way I kind of look at the penalty talk, which is kind of it's such a tired and boring, boring discussion. Most good teams have the good players to create the penalties. And so many people, because sometimes I get in a back and forth with a fellow individual that I have no idea who they are because it's social media, and they've got like Big John 48769, and I don't know where they are.
They got like a picture of the other team's like player or logo in their avatar.
Yeah, or something like whatever. And that is it was the New York Jet hold when Sauce Gardner did that. And the guy brought up, or the girl, I don't know, Big Rick could be a girl, I don't know, said just like in the Super Bowl, that hold was such garbage. You don't call it at that time. You don't call that there with Sauce Gardner and all that kind of stuff. I will say this. There are a lot of times when and Greg Olsen, I like Greg Olsen, but I think Greg Olsen did a disservice to the game when he said you don't call that penalty at that point in time in the game. Yes, you do. Yes, you do, because that's a penalty. That's a hold. That was a hold on James Bradbury.
James Bradbury admitted
it was a hold. I don't care if that's in the first quarter or the fourth quarter.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a hold. And if you don't call it, then you're giving the opposing team an edge, right? Because then, hey, they're not going to call it here. That's why I need to, and that's why I hate when officials at the end of a basketball game, when people are like, oh, the official needs to swallow their whistle. No, they don't. They need to call it if it was a foul. You can't just muck the dude and say, oh, let the players decide. The players did. They did decide in this situation. So I just like to see why they're so upset. And the majority of the time is they're upset not because their team lost, but because their team lost to the Chiefs. That is the reason why. Do not get in back and forths with people about, oh, the Chiefs get all the calls. They don't. It is proven. I've just given you the numbers. They do not get benefited from this. Look at the penalties the last couple of games. Who has had more penalty yardage and more penalties? The Chiefs have. In the game against the Vikings, the Chiefs had more penalties than the Vikings did.
If you were going to rig a game for a team, you probably wouldn't call them for 4 defensive penalties on the same drive.
Right?
Like,
I just don't understand
there's no law that says you have to engage with, at Jerry Jeudy season on Twitter or, like prime Jimmy Garoppolo or whatever the accounts are that are like team stan accounts that's their whole identity is their favorite football team. And they think it's unfair that their team doesn't get to win and the Chiefs win all the time. Remember what happened a year ago today, on this day? A year ago. It was Monday Night Football. It was the Chiefs and the Raiders. You remember that roughing the passer call on Chris Jones?
Yeah.
Where he sacked the quarterback and took the ball away from him, and they called roughing the passer because he happened to land on top of the quarterback that he was tackling. Yeah. And I've never seen Andy Reid madder in my life. I've never heard the Arrowhead crowd louder in my life. They had the officiating crew shook so bad, the ref's voice cracked.
Yeah, who was that?
Carl Shepard.
That was Shepard.
Yeah,
that was everybody's favorite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bad calls happen, man. And good teams take advantage when they are the beneficiary of a bad call.
That wasn't a bad call. Like the defensive pass interference, to me, that was what that was to me. You could argue that was more intentional grounding than DPI because he threw the ball down the middle of the field and Addison and Snead were in the corner.
Yeah.
This was I'm just going to throw it up there and hope. Like, if you want to go with the letter of the law, states can't take your helmet off. Okay, fine. Back up the Chiefs, have to do or 15 yards, and let's play football. They didn't. Because it wasn't, you guys don't remember this, but it was when the Browns and the Chiefs were playing, and Trent Green was the quarterback, and the Browns guy got a sack, and he threw his helmet off.
Barrett Ruud.
Ruud,
Oh
right?
yeah.
That is taking your helmet off during the field of play. He got the sack, threw his helmet up in the air
because he thought the game
play
was over. And the
play kept going. So you added 15 yards, Chiefs kick field goal and get the win. That is what the rule is for. Okay.
Yeah,
also,
it's not for.
Also, it sucks that your team sucks. All right, I want Chiefs fans to embrace being the villain.
Yeah, seriously,
I do.
If one of those accounts with like a picture of Jalen Hurts as their Twitter avatar, and they're like a 35-year-old grown man with somebody else's
embrace it
as their social media picture, and they want to tell you you're the Kansas City Cheats. Let me say, yeah, we are. What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, if you're gonna do anything, embrace it and troll it back. Be like, oh yeah baby, we paid him off.
Wear the black hat because you don't get to do it forever.
Like right now, Brennan has been this a lot of his life being a Packer fan because he's been very successful and also a KU basketball fan. Like right now, if you are
slip that in there.
Hey man, for dubs are dubs. I want
you to, if you are a Chief and a KU basketball fan, like you got to be the most hated person in the world right now. You do. And KU basketball fans, do a great job of needling other people. They do. I give credit to a lot of KU basketball fans.
Thank you.
Who just do, they kind of stick the knife in and just move it ever so
slightly.
Stir the pot. Yes. Because when was the last time KU sucked in basketball? 1980, 89?
I didn't even suck that year.
1989? Let's call it 1989.
Okay.
1989. That's the last time that they were not good. Chiefs. When was the last time the Chiefs weren't good? 2012.
Yeah.
Like you're going on a good Venn diagram of we are the best, and it is a circle.
Can I be really annoying for a second?
Well, 89 they weren't allowed in the postseason, so that's why I chose 89.
No. That's totally fair, and that's actually the last time that KU won under 20 games.
That is my point.
And they still went 19-12.
That's my point. And
the last time KU was actually bad was 1983.
Okay. Like I wasn't even born yet. Like KU fans and Chiefs fans right now, that is a complete circle.
Yeah. It's like Mark says on the YouTube comments, embrace being Darth Vader. You don't always get to be the bad guy. You don't always get to to wear the black hat, and it's kind of fun. It's fun to be the heel. It's fun to be hated. Like, I never had more fun being a Seahawks fan than those years. Well, one, because they're good and they're winning all the time.
Yeah.
But when everybody hated Richard Sherman, like, that just made me dig in and be like, nah, that's my guy. Richard Sherman speaks for me.
The thing is, too,
it's just such a tired argument.
Well, it's boring. Like, you want to talk about the game? We got the 1% of the 1% of the 1% athletes out here playing an incredible sport for our entertainment. Like, you want to talk about that, or you want to talk about like lawyers who wear t-shirts? Like, is that really what you want to spend your time talking about? Yeah. If so, more power to you.
Yeah.
Also, like, if you're a fan of that team to the point you're making, like KU fans needling others about the Allen Fieldhouse refs thing, like, well, what do you want me to do? You want me to go walk into Charlie Baker's office and say, actually, you need to crack down on this? Like, I need to sign a petition of KU fans saying, please officiate our games differently.
Hey,
like, come on. There are people in certain fan bases that do believe that should happen. Those people aren't rooted in reality. But like, what do you expect me to do? I can either say, oh, you know what? I can either be the kid in the values PSA. Ref, that ball went off me. I can either be that kid.
The worst commercial ever made.
No kids ever doing that.
Or I can say, yeah, you know what? That was a block. Yeah. Okay? Or that should have been a blocking call on Thomas Robinson. Tough beans, dude. See, you lost.
Like, whenever I think of
clean play, by the way.
Whenever I think,
clean block. Got him at the apex.
Whenever I think of like bad calls in basketball, the one call that jumps to my head, the close. First of all, football, worst call ever in the history of the NFL was Derek Johnson sacking Marcus Mariota, fumbling it, picking up the ball, and they said forward progress. That's the worst call in the NFL history. Worst call in NFL history.
Fail Mary is pretty bad.
That's with backup officials, though.
Yeah, that's with the scab officials. That's true.
This was a veteran guy. He's like, no, it was forward progress. What?
Fail Mary also benefited my team, so it's impossible to say if it was bad.
But then in basketball, I don't remember the year. I think it was 2003 maybe. At KU, they're playing Missouri. Keon Doolin goes up and just dunks over, I don't remember what KU guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the official, before Keon Doolin even got to the ground, because he jumped so high and dunked it over the KU guy, before he even got to the ground, was going that way. And that's the worst call I've ever seen. I don't know if you guys remember.
What's the one?
So bad.
Was it
so bad? Was
it the Missouri game in 2012? Maybe at Missouri in 2011. There's a famous Bob Davis call when he was the voice of KU.
Oh, yeah, when he lost it.
Yeah.
That was the worst call I've ever seen.
He just screaming.
Yeah, I do remember
that.
that.
Yeah.
We've got every non-KU fan listening to our show right now screaming at their radio. What about the one time? What about when Steve Mikhailo got 6 steps from midcourt to the basket to beat K-State at the buzzer?
That's up there. That one, though, guy, that one, you're like, okay, when did he pick up the ball? You know what I'm talking about?
You know why it wasn't a travel? Because it wasn't called.
Yes. I've been saying that about the end of the 2007 National League wildcard game where Matt Holliday slid home with the winning run, and they can't show definitively on replay whether he touched the plate. He must have, because the umpire said he did. That's good enough for me.
Oh, gosh. The charge on Keon Doolin was so funny, and the look out of his face was like, I can't believe you just did that to me. Coming up next, though, we've got Random Question Tuesday, and then we're going to hear from Patrick Mahomes. to 580 Sports Talk.
Oops. Did we go hot a little earlier?
Yeah. Brendan's excited for Random Question Tuesday. All right, Brendan, what do you got?
Yeah. Whoops. I hit the button too quickly. All right, so I mentioned this earlier because Anchorman was on TV again last night for the second time in, I think, 4 days on the Paramount Network. Quickly becoming one of my favorite channels, by the way, because I air it all the time. What is your automatic must-watch? You're flipping through the channel guide or your streaming service or whatever. You see something is on, and you say, yep, have to watch it.
For a long time, it was Shawshank, but now I've seen it so many times.
I like the movie Gladiator.
Okay, that's a good one.
I watched that one.
Great film.
Especially if it's certain times. Because the reason I think that movie is so great is I think Joaquin Phoenix plays a terrific bad guy. Very good bad guy. Like, he's up there near the top when it comes to bad guys. Like him and Jack Nicholson play a great bad guy.
And, what's that dude's name? His first name's Christopher.
Walken?
No. McDonald. Christopher McDonald. Shooter McGavin. Bad guy in everything he's ever been in.
Yeah.
Shooter McGavin and Happy Gilmore. The bad guy in Flubber. Yeah. Great bad guy.
Yeah, Gladiator's one of them.
That's a good one.
I'll give you two. Step Brothers and Goodfellas.
Step Brothers was on the other night, too. I watched it. So good. Goodfellas is a good one.
Goodfellas, absolutely.
What is this, a prison?
I
said that to my wife a day ago. Like, oh, I'm in a prison. She's like, wait, what? And then, so here's the funny thing is I say a lot of movie quotes. And when my wife and I started dating, she's not a big movie person. So she didn't see, like, if I say, sweetie, have you ever, like when we first started dating, I say, have you ever seen this movie? She said, no. A lot like, kind of like Fulton. I'm like, Fulton, have you ever seen this movie? No. So I would say these movie quotes to her. And she thought I was the funniest person in the world. The funniest person in the world. Until, about 4 years into our relationship, she just realized that apparently that I've been, just regurgitating movie lines. She's like, no, you're not funny. You just got a good memory. Because then she finally realized that a lot of these were not my own original jokes, but me being,
that's
a
tough.
good memory.
See, Abby has seen way more movies than me, but I quote the same 3 movies over and over again.
Yeah, my Abby has become conditioned to ask, is that a Simpsons reference every time I make a joke? And the answer is always yes.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I usually ask Abby, okay, which of the 3 movies is it? It's either Clerks, Airplane, or Spaceballs, and sometimes Anchorman if you want a 4th. But yeah, I had the same thought last night. I was watching it. I thought, man, I can't keep watching this because if I do, I'm going to get tired of it. Then I heard Will Ferrell say, you're a smelly pirate hooker. And I immediately started cracking up laughing. And I thought, no, we're good.
There's just so many random things.
Great Odin's Raven.
Time to go in the bear pit. Well, yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it. Yeah, the first one that came to my mind was Gladiator. I like that movie.
That's a good one. Last night was like my best TV night of all time after my favorite football team embarrassed me. I watched Baggage, greatest game show ever made. Then Anchorman, Clerks was on. I watched a Mystery Science Theater movie.
And remember, folks,
so good.
Brendan is nocturnal.
Yes.
So
I went to bed early last. Well, no.
Yeah, you're nocturnal.
When did I go to bed last night?
Pretty sure you're part bat.
I got in bed around 2:30, I think.
What is an owl?
Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got in bed around 2:30. That's pretty good.
No, I was up at 1:30.
I know. I told you if you wanted someone to entertain your son, I could have come and hung out with him. I was awake.
Dad, you can go back to bed. I'll just watch some TV right now.
I could have shown him Clerks.
No, please.
And then he would come home.
You are not allowed to babysit my son.
And this morning he would have said 37, and it would have been the most inappropriate joke a 3-year-old ever.
Him walking around talking about this job would be great if it weren't for the bleeping customers.
Bunch of savages. Yeah, his sister does something that upsets him. And he goes, "Bunch of savages in this town."
You congratulations. You are not allowed to watch my son. Not gonna happen.
We can have a fun time.
Dan, what's your random
I'd
question?
show him Airplane too.
All right. In the vein of the segment we just had, one time where you absolutely do believe that officiating cost one of your favorite teams a game. Whether you think it was rigged or not, just that a bad call was the reason your team lost.
I mean, the Derek Johnson forward progress, that's the worst call I've ever seen. I could not believe that.
Weren't they up 21-3 when that happened?
It was ridiculous.
Same game, Darrell Revis tipped a touchdown pass back to Marcus Mariota.
Yep. And Mariota caught it and went in there. Yeah, that was...
They were up 21-3. Kelsey got concussed in the first half. It was
bad game.
Yeah,
that was the final game for Alex Smith.
Yeah.
As the Chief.
Bad memories.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all good now. It's all washed away.
That I was like, what? You got to be kidding me on that one. There's been a handful of Washburn versus Northwest Missouri State games where a Northwest Missouri State basketball player flopped like a fish, and the officials just bought it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, I was there for a few of those.
Oh, gosh. Every damn game it was. Oh, my goodness.
So the obvious one is the Fail Mary that was already referenced. I mean, that was more incompetence than anything else, but horrible. The number one, which I will never, ever, ever, ever get over. People always say, oh, my God, KU in 2018 got destroyed by Villanova. Villanova was one of the 5 best teams of all time.
Oh, you're talking about the reach-in foul when they won it in 16.
We're talking 2016.
Yeah.
We're talking Louisville, Elite
Yeah.
8, 2016.
Yeah.
Devontae Graham fouled out of that game. He committed maybe 2 actual fouls in that
was it
game.
him and Archie Diacono collided and they call a
my
foul on
God.
Graham.
It
Yeah, I
was-
remember that.
Graham dove for a ball on the
I
floor,
remember
never even made contact with the Villanova player and got called for a foul. Sucked.
Super Bowl 40 is my answer.
Oh, yeah, that's an easy one.
Just incompetent officiating from stem to stern. And the Seahawks should have won that game, and they didn't.
Independent of any biases, most people who watch the NBA would tell you the 2002 Western Conference Finals.
1997 National League Championship Series, the strike zone Levon Hernandez got. Eric Gregg strike zone for Levon Hernandez. He was calling strikes in the other batter's box before the pitch was halfway to home plate.
I remember, who was it? Was it Terry Pendleton
I think it
or
was Fred McGriff?
Who was it? Just goes, I don't even know what you want me to do, man. Like, what I need like an 84-inch bat. No, I do remember that one.
Yeah,
That was bad.
if I could get that strike zone, I think I could have pitched 10 years in the major leagues.
Yeah. Coming up next, we're going to hear from Patrick Mahomes and then have a little overreaction, proper reaction. today. Had some nice things to say about Russell Wilson, also Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, how tough he is. But here's what QB1 had to say to the media today.
In the offense right now, where are you guys at?
Yeah, I thought we took a step in the positive direction this last week. That's a hard scheme to go against, the amount of pressure, the amount of dropping out, the cover zero. And I thought the young guys did a good job of being in the right spot at the right time. I think selfishly for myself, if I could hit some of those deep shots that when we did get the opportunities, the one to Justin Watson, I missed the corner. They got me with the scheme, so I try to lay him out to the sideline instead of throwing it over the middle. And the one to Marquez, and even though there's a guy there, I can put it out there. But luckily, he made a good play and got the flag. So I think if you hit on those deep throws right there, the rest of the offense was going. So we just got to hit those deep ones when they're there.
As they're going to short week.
About that same thing, the same topic. Just wondering, the fact that you get so few of those opportunities, does it factor at all in? So I think the execution, I guess, of the play when you do get them?
Not necessarily. I mean, just whenever you do get those opportunities, you have to hit them. And that's something that I tell myself every week. And we haven't hit them at the high enough pace this season so far, but we have historically. So let's just try to continue to work at them and practice them. And then when we get those opportunities in the game, let's try to hit them. But as far as the rest of the offense, I thought we did a good job of just moving the ball around, taking what was underneath. But, yeah, when we get those opportunities, you got to hit them in this league.
As you're going a short week, how do you prioritize rest versus, how much you study?
Yeah, I'm pretty big at just Monday, Tuesday, just really getting after it with the details and stuff like that. And I feel like if I can really get the full game plan in, which we have already, and get it all down where I feel comfortable, Wednesday I can relax and let my body relax and study and stuff like that. And it always helps you're the home team. So you're at your house doing that instead of traveling and stuff like that. So the coaches did a good job of getting the game plan in early, so I've kind of gotten pretty much all of it down now, and hopefully I get some sleep tonight and get some rest tomorrow.
Quarterback, you showed us, your weekly, you still work out by yourself. Do you still do that for sure?
Yeah, we do a good plan. It's not as much as I would get in a normal week, but it's just trying to do something to just flush the body out, get it moving and stuff like that, so you're not sore on game day and you can have your body in a good spot.
What do you say about Kelce's game on his bum ankle?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's tough, man. That's a legendary type game. I mean, to be able to battle through that. I mean, obviously, I didn't see the injury live, so I didn't know how bad it was. But I'm looking back on it now and seeing how the ankle rolled, and then being able to come back out there and play at a high level and score a touchdown that we needed to win the game. It speaks to not only the talent that he has, but the toughness that he has, and that the reason that he's been out there week in and week out, because he'll battle through anything to go out there and play.
It's clear before it is now how much he really wants to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other stories about how much that means to him to be out there?
Yeah, no, I mean, even like this last when he had the injury in the practice, I mean, he was trying to play that game, and I remember after we lost that first game of the season, just texting him and just asking him how he feels, and he didn't even tell me how he feels. He just said, "There's no doubt I'm playing next week." So that was the end of it, and so he was playing. So that just speaks to the toughness and the mindset that he has.
What was he like during the week that leading up to the Detroit game?
Well, it happened so late in the week that I think he was just frustrated that he didn't get out there, and he was trying to push it to get out there. But I mean, yeah, he's a guy that wants to play. He's a competitor at the end of the day, and he loves football and loves being a part of this Chiefs team. And he goes out there and battles week in and week out. And I mean, I think people don't even know sometimes that he might be dealing with something, or he might not be feeling great, but he'll go out there and play at a high level. That's what all the great ones do.
Patrick, speaking of ankles, it looks like every week your ankle looks like it's getting tweaked a little bit. How is your ankle?
Yeah, it actually was my ankle. I don't know if you remember in your high school when someone would frog you, he just kneed me right in the side of my calf, and it just kind of sent that shock through my leg. So it's fine, it's just a bruise. But yeah, it wasn't everybody thought it was my ankle. It was just the old frog right in the side of the leg there, man.
Rice is starting to really come along at this stage. What have you seen in particular from him that is making you have that trust kind of beyond even Travis?
Yeah, no, he's doing a great job of just being in the right spot at the right time. I think that's the biggest thing. He plays hard, he plays fast. When he gets his opportunities, he makes the most out of them. And so he'll just continue to learn. I mean, if you look at the touchdown that we had, I mean, the one before, I wanted him to go over the top, which we didn't teach that. So it was kind of one of those things, a veteran type move. And he saw that. He learned from that. And the next play, we got a coverage that we weren't expecting to that play. And he was able to still win and be there at the right spot. So it's just learning on the go. And that's what you have to do as a rookie in this league. And he's done a great job of it.
like this against the Broncos, is there any kind of psychological battle to flush that? I mean, how do you try to deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just when you play a team like the Broncos, same with any division opponent, there's just another level of intensity. So I'm not worried about necessarily a streak or anything like that. I'm worried about winning against a division opponent. And I know just as much as I think everyone in this locker room knows that it doesn't matter what the records are. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a hard fought battle. Both teams are going to give everything they have. And so that's just the history of the matchup. And so that's the thing with me. It's not about the streak. It's about going out there and find a way to win against a division opponent in a tough fought battle.
Something you need to convey to other guys? I mean, do you have any concern about anybody thinking that way?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we understand the intensity. It's like the first thing we talk about every week we play a division opponent is that it's a different football game. It's more physical, it's faster, and the mistakes, you have to minimize those mistakes because they mean more. And so that's just how it is playing in the AFC West.
Patrick, what do you see out of the Broncos' defensive challenges do they present and someone like Frank Clark over there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I think as far as their DBs are concerned, they have veteran safeties. They have young, really good corners, especially Surtain, obviously. He intercepted me last year, but he's just a good physical corner, can do a little bit of everything. So, I mean, one of the top corners in this league. And then their D-line, I mean, they have pass rushers kind of everywhere. And obviously, Frank, I understand how explosive he is off the football. But I think the Menino kid's done a great job this year. He's really kind of coming into his own. And it seems like every year the Broncos just have more and more pass rushers that just keep they just keep coming. And so it's just going to have to make sure that we neutralize those as much as we possibly can. Those guys, I mean, that's going to be a tough challenge for us. And then the linebackers are two smart guys. I mean, Joel had 2 interceptions on me last year. So it's a good defense. And it's going to take us really executing at a high level if we want to go out there and continue to take steps in the positive direction with the offense.
The last 3, Swain, Nathan, Steve. What's right?
Patrick, yeah, I know on the scramble drill, everyone's kind of got their roles and it's something you guys practice and everything. Do you always want somebody headed for the end zone? Like when you take off, or you feel like, hey, that is it a matter of like spreading the field and kind of having somebody everywhere, and you definitely want somebody back in the end zone in case they kind of forget you can take a shot?
Yeah, I think we just kind of play ball. We just kind of work that. There's different angles that we take and everything like that, but at the end of the day, people have to find that open space. But yeah, if one wants to head to the end zone, I'm definitely looking that way.
Patrick, last year you guys had the Thursday night game in week 2, so it's obviously tough to just have one game to sort of get a feel for everybody. How different does it feel now having 5 games to get a feel for what the offense is when you know it's a short week?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously we had a little bit of it last year with the new receiving group, but more veteran guys, they had an understanding of what we could pull from training camp and kind of put in the game plan. But I think now, especially the young guys that we have, being able to have a few weeks of them learning the offense and how we do things on a weekly basis, that having the extra few weeks to prepare will help them with this Thursday night game, and we're able to still add stuff to the game plan. And do different stuff, and they understand it. They know it from training camp and from the season. And so, yeah, definitely Thursday night games are tough, I think, on everybody to prepare and game plan, everything like that. But it's about who can execute and who can go out there and make the least mistakes and have the intensity at the end of the day. And so I think that's what you see in the Thursday night game so far, and which you'll continue to see this season.
Last one, Steve.
Patrick, just heard you just talk to us about Russell Wilson. Said he looks like he's still cooking. What are you saying from him? I primarily watch the defense, but what do you see from him?
Yeah, I mean, he's played good football. I think the numbers have said it, and the play, it looks like that. And so he's a top tier quarterback in this league. He's won Super Bowls. He's put up crazy numbers. And so I feel like people kind of like some other quarterbacks in the league, people put all the blame on him, but I mean, he's playing great football, and sometimes it just the score doesn't go your way. And so I know it's going to be a hard-fought battle. Last year was a hard-fought battle against the Broncos both times we played because they have a top quarterback and a good defense. And so I'm excited for the opportunity that we have to go up against a great team.
That is Patrick Mahomes on the Denver Broncos. Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice.
Said Russell Wilson's won Super Bowls, plural. Man, I wish.
I did catch that.
I wish.
He hates the Patriots so much, he's willing to rewrite history.
I would sleep so much better at night if it was bowls, plural.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who has more first-team All-Pros, Patrick Mahomes or Russell Wilson?
Oh, Russ, I don't think he's ever been.
I don't think he has. I don't think he has been. Yeah.
How many? All right, you're both correct. It is Patrick Mahomes.
He's at 2.
Who has more second-team All-Pros?
Mahomes.
No, I would think Wilson's been second-team All-Pro a couple of times. Mahomes, I think, has only been second-team once.
Unless I misread it earlier, that is a trick question. They have each been an All-Pro second-team one time. Russell's was 2019.
Yeah.
That was the peak of
let Russ cook.
Russ cook. And wow, can you believe he's never had an MVP vote? It has quite literally only gone downhill since for Russell Wilson.
Well, he didn't play
He's a Pro Bowler the next 2 years.
Yeah, he didn't play so bad in 2020.
I have a question for you, real quick. Hold on. Is Russ's play the last 3 years hurting his Hall of Fame chances?
I don't think there's any way it isn't.
Yeah,
honestly.
it definitely is. It definitely is.
I think, having won a Super Bowl, having been to all those Pro Bowls, having been consistently in the playoffs for the first decade of his career, that'll probably get him in eventually, but he may have to wait.
Man, I don't know.
Is he a top 4?
Would you rather have, do you think he makes a Hall of Fame better than like
Matt Ryan
or Phillip Rivers or Eli Manning? Like, I know Manning's got 2 Super Bowls, so he's got that edge, but at their best, wouldn't you rather have Russell Wilson at his best than any of those other guys?
Yeah, I mean, the one I would argue, I don't know that I will make this argument, but I think you could argue would be Ryan, because Ryan did get to the top and won an MVP.
He did win an MVP, yeah.
Yeah, I would probably take Russ over. I would take him over Eli for sure, and I think I would take him over Rivers.
Oh, I'd 100% take him over Rivers. Rivers accounting stats. Phillip
Rivers,
Rivers.
Don't tell the nerds that. Don't tell the nerds that.
That's fine. I'll tell him whatever.
Phillip Rivers is going to get
first team All Pro or second team All Pro. How is he the one of the best of his generation?
He is going to get a lot of consideration the longer he goes without being inducted, because he is going to have the analytics era of analysts loves Phillip Rivers, loves him. That's going to help him out when that day comes. He's not going to be first ballot or anything.
Shouldn't even be in the Hall of Fame.
I'm just telling you, as a nerd, I know the nerds are big Phillip Rivers fans, which is funny because Phillip Rivers is probably not a big fan of nerds himself.
So you're going to put all those guys in, and like Wilson statistically is having a good year this year, even if his team stinks. Like, if he's got 1 or 2 more good statistical years in him, I think he'll probably eventually get in. But he's not going to be the first of those Seahawks teams. Like Sherman and Wagner and Chancellor, those guys are going to get in before he does.
Yeah.
9-time Pro Bowler, 1-time second team All Pro.
No.
It's a lot of Pro Bowls.
A lot of Pro Bowls.
Alex Smith made a lot of Pro Bowls. Coming up, we got overreaction, proper reaction. number 3, 580 Sports Talk, coming to you on this Tuesday. You just heard the word, and if you didn't know, it was joke. Like I tell a lot of funny jokes, but no S. Joke. And if you want to win $2,000 a day, you can. All you got to do is go to our website, 580wibw.com. Click on the image. Very simple. Can't miss it. Ghost your bills. Click on it. Type in joke. Like the Broncos are a joke. Or a lot of people think tomorrow's punishment for KU will be a joke. Type that in, and you have a chance to win. It's only good for this hour in the 4 o'clock hour. It's from 8 to 5. 580wibw.com. See how I incorporated the word joke in 2 different scenarios.
Nice. That was not a joke.
No, I'm being serious.
Yeah.
Being dead serious. The next word should be serious. Might be too many letters. I try to keep them short. We have a fun time trying to guess what the word is going to be.
Yeah, we've never done it.
I was close.
Yeah, Jake was close.
Yeah,
What were
you
you
said-
2 hours late?
I said
Yeah,
phone.
it was an hour early
hour
on
early.
phone. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was.
An hour early. I like to be on time. Bothers me.
That's all right. Rather be early than late.
Yep. And my wife is perpetually 10 minutes late. That's why we got married. You ever seen that joke? You know, if someone is always on time, someone's always late, and then they get married. That's me and my wife.
I think Abby's probably more on time. I try to be. I was always late to everything growing up, and it has given me a very traumatic adulthood where I feel anxious if I don't show up to something on time.
We're going to talk some KU, including the news coming out today that we'll find out what the punishment's going to be tomorrow. We'll talk about
IARP ruling, folks.
Yeah. Which no longer exists, by the way.
Yes, tomorrow is the final day.
Yeah.
The IARP exists.
It exists for now.
The NCAA is a joke. J-O-K-E.
It's like a bee, right? It's going to sting and then it's going to die.
Yeah. Jeepers. Man.
And it might not even sting all that bad.
No.
Who knows?
So
8 years later.
This just popped into my mentions because someone pulled it back up on Twitter. I tweeted on June 22nd of this year, I am fully prepared for the day of KU's IARP decision to be the most toxic day in Twitter history. I can't wait. And a friend of mine just brought that back up with the smiling devil emoji. Like he is also very excited for this. And I stand by that point. It is going to be...
Oh, it's going to be bad.
Our poor text line, the poor provider of our text line is going to have indecent traffic all day long.
The social media's KU fans who will say, why does this matter?
Oh, yeah. No,
it's going to be bad.
I take pride in not being a meathead. Like everyone's got those tendencies, right? Like it'll happen sometimes. I pride myself on being realistic. Like, you know, sometimes some fans overhype things, underhype things. Like I try to be middle of the road. Tomorrow, if things go well for Kansas, I will not be. I will be yelling, that's because we were a victim all day long. All damn day long.
That is never going to stop being
so funny.
We were victimized by Adidas.
Yeah. That's the funniest
thing.
They
made us wear these terrible uniforms with the red cummerbund that 1 year.
The thing, though, that bothers me, Brennan, you're doing it as a joke, which is fine, because as Dan says, I'm here just for the jokes. There are a lot of people who do believe that, who are KU fans, and that is what bothers me.
No, man, let them live.
Jeepers. Oh, my God.
Vindicated.
Oh, my God.
Love the FBI, don't we, folks?
Oh,
love the Supreme Court.
You're going to have some K-State fans that are more purple than a Bill Snyder windbreaker screaming about this thing tomorrow.
Here's the question.
So
now,
bad.
Again, this is all pending that it doesn't go terrible. Like if there is a postseason ban, I will have my pitchfork and my torch ready, and I will be on the NCAA's doorstep by noon.
Details withstanding.
Now, should it go well for KU and it not be a totally severe punishment, the big question, will Bruce Weber cut his hair? Because of all the anger that will be generated by fans of the purple team. And I, for what it's worth, I do get your frustration. I do. Nobody will be more upset if it is a slap on the wrist than former Kansas State Wildcats head men's basketball coach.
Do you
Bruce
remember
Weber.
when
He ran around for a whole season looking like a founding father.
Yeah, I'll cut my hair when they get punished. Man, did anybody got a photo of old Bruce right now? Still letting her flow?
What a saga!
Oh my goodness!
From we have your playbook to this.
No, I remember the Billy Preston, man. I saw Billy Preston playing his only KU game, the Showdown for Relief, baby.
Is Billy Preston real? I thought he was just a character like Sonic or Mario.
It will be very on brand for the FBI investigation, the IARP rulings, if like the only thing that gets handed down is like 10 years show cause for Curtis Townsend and nothing happens to anybody else, because the people who have been the most hurt by what happened in this whole sting operation has been black assistant coaches.
Book Richardson. Who, oh my gosh, who's the other one?
The Oklahoma State guy.
Yeah.
Arizona guy.
Yeah. You know what? Only rivaling the fury from K-State and Missouri fans pending results tomorrow, Oklahoma State fans. And to be completely honest with you,
justified.
they deserve to be upset
Yeah,
because they got screwed.
Absolutely hosed.
1,000%.
I genuinely feel for Oklahoma State because they got screwed by the whole thing.
Dumb.
Can we real quick? Well, maybe we should reminisce more about this tomorrow again when the news comes out. The funniest part of the entire saga was TCU getting caught in, because remember there were like ancillary programs, like Creighton got caught, TCU got caught.
They had all kind of programs on the wiretaps. Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was Christian Dawkins or Jim Gatto or TJ Gasnola or one of them.
Oh yeah, just
was caught on a wiretap saying, "Yeah, they're all about TCU."
Yeah.
Said, "Yeah, they're all cheating too. There's bad at it."
They're bad at it. I do remember that. Man, we had the FBI getting involved into this. Man,
so this is almost exactly
what a waste of resources. Man, go find some serial killers or something. Jeez, we're trying to get guys who are getting 25 grand in a book bag. Gotta get these college kids who are getting money in a book bag. Ridiculous.
It is almost 6 years to the day.
Yes.
Because I have vivid memory. Two of my most vivid memories of working in this job are both from Big 12 Basketball Media Day. 2017, getting ready to leave when all the news broke. And I drove all the way from Kansas City back here. And it was like, hey, so this seems like a big deal. This is a problem. Is Billy Preston ever going to see the light of day?
The answer, no.
No. He's playing professionally in Estonia or whatever. And then I think it was a year later when we got these schools were actually victims of Adidas ruling, which is still one of the fun. I remember cackling to myself in the
That's why you don't let
parking lot in
Congress
Kansas City
deal with this, because they're like, they were victims. Oh, just stop it.
So funny, man.
God. So I'm excited for tomorrow.
I'm hopeful because if it isn't good, I will be having a tough.
We'll have meltdown May in October.
I want it to be either so slight or I want it to be just an absolute hammer. Because if it is an absolute hammer, they would be like totally against what everything else has happened.
Yeah, that's my one worry. Everyone is just saying, it's a slap on the wrist. It's no big deal. That is my one worry. That
the one school
this is going to be IARP's mic drop.
Yeah.
They're going to
repossess postseason ban.
Exactly.
Suckers, your program's a crater. We're out. We don't have to be accountable to anything. We don't exist anymore.
Going to repo Allen Fieldhouse. Put a lien on it.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
ESPN Plus only.
New shoe deal with Keds.
LA Gear.
No, man, LA Gear would be sick.
LA Gear with the pumps. Man, I wanted those so bad. Mom wouldn't buy them for me. Dang.
Should we play overreaction, proper reaction?
Yeah, overreaction, proper reaction.
You're overreacting.
I think you're overreacting.
A highly sensible reaction.
Totally rational reaction.
An understandable reaction.
I overreacted.
The Big 12 will get a team in the college football playoff.
The Big 12!
That is a proper reaction.
Yeah, I think it's proper as well.
I think the Big 12 champion will either be Oklahoma or Texas, and that team will either be 13-0 or 12-1, and that team will make the playoff.
The only way that either Texas or Oklahoma does not make the playoff. Whoever wins is if they lose one other game. You can't have 2 losses and go to the playoff. That's never happened before.
I know, Dan, you are on the record saying Oklahoma's going undefeated through the regular season, correct?
Yes, I don't see them stumbling and falling at this point.
The remaining 6 games, and Jake, I'll get yours in a second here. They host UCF, at KU, Bedlam. They own Oklahoma State. Home for West Virginia, excuse me. At BYU, home for TCU. They running the rack.
The only game that will be difficult at BYU, I'm telling you.
I don't know, man.
In November.
Funny things happen in November.
Yeah, that's the only one that
that's
even
the
is
only one.
That's the only one that's even a beige flag.
That's the beige flag.
That's the beige flag game.
Yeah.
No, they should win all. They'll be. I don't even know if there'll be any of those where they're not a double-digit favorite.
Yeah.
I don't know. BYU
see.
is feisty, but I don't think they're good.
On the road.
We're still waiting for a new Big 12 team to beat an established Big 12 team. Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. No, I think that's why. Because
do we think Texas is going to do it? Because Texas has Houston road.
Yep.
Home for BYU.
Yep.
Home for K-State.
Mm-hmm.
At TCU.
Yep.
At Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
Home for Tech.
Yeah.
They should.
Yeah. But will they go Texas?
Yeah, that's the thing. Are they going to have another game where they leave a bunch of money on the table in the red zone and somebody like
they have the tougher schedule though?
Like if they commit a red zone turnover and don't score on first and goal from the 1, if they leave like 21 points on the table, Kansas State's good enough to beat them if they do that.
Yeah. Because I think eventually the Pac-12 will weed itself out. USC is going to lose another game outside of Oregon. I think Oregon's got a chance. If they run the rack, they're going to get in. You got 3 teams in the Big Ten, but they all play each other. So I don't see that happening. Maybe 2 of the 3 can make it. I don't know. And then the SEC right now, Alabama lost already this year to that Texas. So they have to go. You have to have 1 loss.
Mm-hmm.
If you have more than 1 loss, you're not going to make it in there because there's going to be too many 1-loss teams. And that's why I think the SEC is going to cannibalize itself maybe a little bit. But that's why I think the Big 12. I think as long as they don't have more than 2 losses, and I don't think they will, I think they're going in.
Here's the question: who are they fighting against for a playoff spot? SEC winners getting in. Big 10 winners getting in.
SEC runner-up might get in if it's 1-loss Alabama or 1-loss Georgia. That team will get in too.
But that's the only scenario though.
And but you could also be looking at, let's say, 11-1 Michigan or 11-1 Ohio State.
Mm-hmm. Florida State,
because whoever wins that game, the game is going to win the Big 12 champion or the Big 10 championship, and they're in.
Yeah.
You've got,
unless Penn State plays spoiler, which I still feel is unlikely.
They've covered in every game.
Florida State is going to have a chance out of the ACC.
State's interesting. Yeah.
And I think both Oregon and this game on Saturday is gigantic between Oregon and Washington.
Mm-hmm.
They also don't have divisions this year in the Pac-12. So theoretically, those 2 could face off again.
It'd be
for
the same
Pac-12
situation
title.
as the Big 12.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So no, I think 1 will get in, but it'll be fun. It'll be a fun battle for those last couple spots. All right, overreaction, proper reaction. Bryce Young was a bad pick. I'm going to judge you based on your answer, by the way.
Overreaction. It's 5 games into the season. Come on now.
Overreaction. They don't have any help. He's behind a terrible offensive line.
Yeah,
they're not letting him throw the ball very far down the field. Like I don't know that.
I don't
that
think
offense
he can with that line.
Yeah, and that offense I don't think is very well schemed. But again, that just could be, like you said, the offensive line's problem. No, it's way too early to judge a guy who I saw be as good as he was in college. That he's a bum because he's had 4 bad games.
No, I'm with you because I said this the other day. I've seen so much of this already, and I just don't really get it. Like how, I get it's, we all want instant gratification, but how do you make that judgment call about the guy this early? He hasn't even played all of their games.
No.
He has no help, a coach that's checked out. I just don't get it. And I think for what it's worth, the same principle applies to Green Bay's quarterback. A little different because he's older, but how do you make a judgment after 6 career starts? That's just me, though.
No, that's overreaction.
Overreaction, proper reaction. It's time for the Patriots to fire Bill Belichick.
I'm going to say overreaction for right now. I do think Robert Kraft needs to take the decision-making out of Bill Belichick's hands.
So it's time for them to fire general manager Bill Belichick.
It's too hard to do that nowadays. Now maybe Bill Belichick says, look, I want the control. And if you're going to fire me for picking the roster, then just fire me as the coach. But I think it's a little bit, they're terrible right now. They might be the worst team in the NFL. They can't do squat on offense, but they don't have any dudes, not a single dude on that team. And so that's why
I would argue they had 2 dudes on defense and they're both out for the year.
Yeah.
Well, Gonzalez, the rookie, really
and
good.
Judon too.
And Judon. Yeah, Judon's a dude.
And so I'll say overreaction for now, but they need to have a restructure.
Yeah, the problem there is Belichick's not giving that up. Like, I would imagine Bill Belichick, of all people, is saying, if I can't do both, I'm not doing it. And I think that's
72 years old.
Yeah. I mean, he wants to get to Shula's record, and I do think he will eventually get there. The fascinating thing is if this ends up being a straight-up tank job, because if the Patriots end up with one of those top 2 picks, I assume you're going to give Bill Belichick several more years to try to make it work with Caleb Williams or Drake May, because both those dudes look like they're going to be really good NFL prospects. Yeah. So I think that is at least interesting at the very least. But yeah, they need to do something to fix their roster building, because it's been bad. Honestly, even before Brady left, it's been pretty rough. That does it for Overreaction, Proper Reaction. We've got What Is Wrong With You coming up next, and Michael Swain later this hour here on 580 Sports Talk. What is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk with Brendan and Dan, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Our winner so far this week is the Interstate crime between Iowa and Nebraska. A Lincoln man booked after leading Omaha officers on an ambulance chase and facing several charges. That's the headline of our story from WOWT in Omaha. He's got the world's worst tattoo on his head. A lot going on with our guy, Austin Reiser. None of it good.
Criminal,
yeah.
Austin Reiser.
Really, really funny.
With like the jaws of a tiger.
Yeah.
Tattooed on his head. It's weird.
I always wonder when it's mentioned in a story that stop sticks were deployed but are unsuccessful. Like, you must have done a really poor job of setting them up.
Yeah, you got to get some better stop sticks, man.
They seem kind of foolproof, if we're being honest with you. I'm not really sure how you messed that up.
Has tire technology advanced faster than stop stick technology?
Maybe.
Is a question we need to be asking ourselves.
It's a market inefficiency at this point. What is wrong with you, as always, is brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. They cut the metal you need to your specifications, saving you time, money, and material. So never settle when it comes to metal at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Dan, you're up first today.
All right, we're going to Ocala, Florida. We meet Deasia Cobb, who's arrested and charged with battery and disorderly conduct after an incident that unfolded last Wednesday at the Quick King gas station. The cashier told deputies that the incident started when Cobb confronted her, saying she could have handled her 2 transactions at once. The two reportedly shouted racial slurs at one another.
Oh, no.
Causing the verbal altercation to turn physical. That's when Cobb allegedly grabbed a sausage from the hot tray and its tongs and threw them both at the cashier. The sausage hit the cashier in the right wrist and the tongs in the right leg. Cobb then left the store. The cashier grabbed the sausage off the floor, went outside, and threw it at Cobb's car.
Uh-oh.
Cobb retaliated by throwing the can of Coke she had just purchased and the same sausage at the cashier, who was standing towards the end of the counter. The soda can hit the counter, and the cashier was able to get out of the way to avoid being hit by it. The store owner who witnessed the entire incident said Cobb needed to leave. Cobb, however, said she wasn't trespassed from the store, so she refused to leave. Deputies said she loitered and taunted the store employees for 8 minutes. I love how specific that detail is. Cobb was eventually arrested, transported to the Marion County Jail on $1,500 bond. She has since been released.
I mean, you can't even eat that sausage now.
No, that sausage is...
That's tainted.
It's been thrown not once, not twice, but thrice.
The hurling racial slurs at each other, you just know it's not going to get any better from that point.
It's not going to, it's not, as Will Ferrell's Alex Trebek famously said on Celebrity Jeopardy, please refrain from using ethnic slurs.
What did I just say about ethnic slurs? Here's an interesting one from Vance, by the way, on YouTube in the comments about our current winner for the week. Ambulances have run flat tires.
I would think that would, make sense.
Yeah, I did not know that.
But at the same time, like, you got to get some stop sticks that are going to do something to some run flat tires. Yeah.
In case you run into something like this.
Yeah, in case,
Our second story today will take us to Big Pine Key, Florida.
Double Florida day.
Yeah, full Florida day. We meet 65-year-old Benjamin Holroyd. And the reason Benjamin is involved is because he was arrested after deputies say he dumped more than 10,000 pounds of trash on the side of the road. The Monroe County, Florida Sheriff's Office began investigating the incident after a large pile of debris and trash was left on 18th Lane in Big Pine Key. Investigators say information pointed to 65-year-old Benjamin Holroyd as the perpetrator. When questioned, Holroyd admitted he was the person who first begun dumping trash in the area. The sheriff's office charged him with dumping litter in an amount exceeding 500 pounds, which is a third-degree felony. The county solid waste workers removed a total of 10,380 pounds of garbage from the scene. So yeah, that's your whole story. He just took his entire life's worth of trash and left it on the side of the road.
There's all kinds of stuff over there. It looks like a trailer. Looks like some plastic furniture, maybe some kids' toys.
An animal carrier.
There's an animal carrier. There's a milk crate. He did the milk crate challenge, and when he was done with that,
the milk crate challenge. Wow. Haven't thought about that in a minute. Oh my gosh, that's funny.
That's a whole lot of garbage. 10,000 pounds. Like, he didn't do that overnight. That was gradual.
It looks like we have a car axle with wheels on it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a lot. And it would take a long time for a 65-year-old, I think, to lift or to, tote 10,000 pounds of trash. I feel like this must have been a multi-man job.
Like, do you drive by it and think, there's a little bit of trash over there. Somebody dumped some unwanted stuff over there. That's weird.
Yeah.
It looks like it's growing. Wow. That's a lot of trash. I also want to know how they got the exact weight of the trash. Like,
good point.
So the charge is that he dumped over 500 pounds. Do they take it to like a weigh station and be like, all right, we got to make sure what we can charge this guy with?
They got just one of those little grocery store scales. And they just keep putting handfuls on it and adding it up.
10,000 pounds of trash. Yeah, like that couldn't have taken even like a weekend, probably, unless he was nonstop, like driving loads of trash to the side of the road. Which, if you're doing that, just go to the dump, man.
Here, by the way, is a picture of the trash. It is on the YouTube feed if you would like to look at it. It doesn't look, well, it's kind of long. It's not an especially tall pile, but maybe my perspective is wrong. It's just crap. Like, it's just all the crap from your neighborhood. We got ironically, I think there's a garbage can in the pile.
Yeah, there's like some barrels.
Yeah.
That looks like a stand for a basketball hoop, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's what that is. Good call. That's definitely what that is. Yeah, they got the Gorilla in there. The Goliath hoop.
How long? I got to know how long it took him to get 10,000 pounds of trash and just strew it all over the side of the road.
That's really funny. I'm throwing this back up there. Yeah, every time you look at it, there's something new to find in the pile.
Wow.
That's really special.
That's something else.
All right, who we got for today? I'm going to leave the trash picture up for a second on YouTube.
There's a good visual with the trash by the side of the road. But this woman and the cashier were throwing a piece of sausage at each other from the roller at a convenience store.
Yeah, that's too funny. Calling each other slurs while doing it.
Throwing it back and forth at each other. Threw a can of Coke and then said, you need to leave. No, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to taunt you for 8 minutes until the police arrive.
8 minutes.
Just stand there and taunt them for 8 minutes.
That's really funny. All right, that wins for today. Does that take down our ambulance thief?
I kind of think it does, because the ambulance thief is a good story, but it doesn't have a sausage link being hurled back and forth.
Yeah, so did we get clarification on how big this sausage is?
No, we can assume it was on the roller. So,
okay. Yeah, so we're talking like, pierogi size.
Yeah, like a foot-long hot dog.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really funny. The visual of that one, I think, is better.
Yes.
So we're going to go with that one as our winner for today.
Tongs, too. That's wild.
Yeah, that's funny. It's anything she could find, just pick them up and chuck them. That's our new winner for the week, the sausage hurler. That is our winner for What Is Wrong With You today and for the week. Brought to you, as always, by Top City Metal Supply. That's metal cut to order when you need it. Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, which you can find halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Coming up on the other side of our commercial break, we'll be joined by Michael Swain of Fog.net for this week's Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. A lot to get to from KU's win over UCF this past weekend. Look ahead to the Oklahoma State game this coming Saturday. And a lot going on in the basketball world, too. Do you remember Late Night was on Friday? That was a thing that I was almost completely unaware of until 24 hours before it happened. We'll talk about all things KU football and basketball coming up next with Michael Swain here on 580 Sports Talk. Back on 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. You know what that means. It's Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain of Fog.net. You can go follow Michael's tremendous work covering the Kansas Jayhawks over at Fog.net. It's part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Follow him on Twitter at mswain247. Michael, first thing I've got for you today, this actually comes from our other co-host, Jake Laban, who had to step out just now. It's a two-parter. Number one, better player, Devin Neal or Tuxedo Tony Sands?
Oh, wow. I mean, look, Tony Sands, I think you got to go with him. We'll see in due time if Devin Neal gets his name up in the Ring of Honor. I'd lean that's a yes, but Tony Sands was incredible. And I mean, you look at some of the performances he put together, were just historic. And Devin Neal has made history in his own right. You think about that Oklahoma State game last year, and just some of the other really good performances he's had. But I got to go with Tony Sands on this one.
The second part of this question, Jake wanted to know, when is the last time you wore a tuxedo?
Never. I can't say I've ever actually worn a tuxedo. I've worn suits before, blazers. I just can't say I've gone full tux.
Never even for prom or anything? No tuxes?
No. I was always a suit guy, like suit and like a little vest maybe. But no, I don't think I ever went full like black tuxedo like you'd see in the movies.
Yeah, me either, Michael. I don't think we're missing anything, frankly.
The suit's good enough. Honestly, it's all
jacket and tie is fine.
If my wife didn't tell me it was any different, I would say they're the exact same thing. Michael, let's get to the KU football from this weekend. What a dominant effort by KU. And they didn't even need Jason Bean to do a whole lot. Lance Leipold said after the game, hey, he did what we asked him to do. We could have asked him to do more. But why would you throw the ball more if you're ripping off almost 8 yards per carry? Neal was great on limited carries. Highshaw was great. Dylan McDuffie has become like the best number 3 running back in the Big 12, maybe. I mean, that was as good as we have seen this KU rushing attack in quite a while. What stood out the most to you about the way the offense was able to move the ball so easily on Saturday?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just the fact that I think everybody in David Booth, Kansas Memorial Stadium knew KU was going to run the ball in the second half, and yet UCF could do nothing about it, right? I think that for me is the most impressive aspect. It's the fact that KU is able to impose its will on a team that, we have to be honest here, right? It's still a group of 5 team. They've got some good players. They can go play to the Power 5 schools, but as a collective, you just look at them in the trenches and they're tiny. They're small. And so that for me was really encouraging, the fact that KU could line up and dominate, because I look later in the season and say Cincinnati is going to be very, very similar to what UCF is. And can KU in late November go into Cincinnati and just go dominate the ball? That's how you win road games. And I think that's a really encouraging aspect. And then I think just the pure talent that you saw on display from KU's running backs. I think Daniel Highshaw, the story for him to come back from dislocating his same hip, this time last year, to all of a sudden this year be back, be physical, and look like he did when he was really tearing it up, this time last year. So I think there was just so many encouraging things about that performance on the offensive side of the ball. And then obviously I think the defense, the way they're able to really shut down UCF until it got to garbage time, I think that's really encouraging. So I think Lance Leipold talked about wanting to see a response from his team after the Texas game. And look, I think he did exactly that.
Michael Swain is our guest. He covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk for Jayhawk Weekly, as he does every Tuesday at this time. As good as the running backs were themselves, and I'll talk about Devin Neal, so I'm blue in the face. Again, Highshaw, McDuffie, all these guys played well. I thought the offensive line was just fantastic. Really, you throw in the tight ends, you throw in the wide receivers blocking too. I thought it was an absolute clinic from KU on Saturday. And I know Pro Football Focus didn't necessarily feel the same way, but I made me wonder, what are they charting? Because it felt like there was hat on a hat, wide open running lanes, great downfield blocking as well, pretty much every single down for KU. I thought that was one of the best, most physical run blocking games I've seen from a KU offensive line, maybe ever in the 10 years I've covered this team.
Yeah, it was really impressive. And I think you got to look at the UCF coaches and say, I mean, what in the world are you guys watching on tape the previous week? Because they didn't seem prepared. They were guys all out of sorts, all out of line, and obviously give credit to KU for that. But I think you'd at least expect the opposition to be in the right spots. And I think so often KU is just able to take advantage of numbers, right? And guys being able to double team and then climb to the next level. So I thought the offensive line played really, really well. I think PFF does it a little bit differently where it's not necessarily eye test, right? It's they try and understand what a guy is supposed to do on a given play and really try and grade that. But I think for KU, right, it's a zone scheme. So it's a little bit different than playing, a different scheme where maybe it's easier to tell what a person's job is to do. So I think that's probably what led to some different grading than maybe what you saw on Saturday. But I think just generally the offensive line looked really good, and they dominated a defensive line that had the tackles for loss leader in the country. He didn't do too much. So I think overall you got to tip your hat to them. And I think the running backs too, they definitely made the offensive line look good on a few plays there too.
We're talking to Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. This is Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. Michael joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline every week at this time to talk all things Jayhawks. Check out the website, fog.net. Become a VIP subscriber today. And, of course, follow Michael on Twitter at mswain247. Oklahoma State's on deck for the Jayhawks, Michael, and they maybe look a little more dangerous after what they did to Kansas State in Stillwater last Friday. What part of this matchup do you think will be the most pivotal part, the decider, whether or not Kansas is able to win and get bowl eligible for a second straight season, or whether they, like their in-state counterparts, end up having a little trouble in Stillwater?
Yeah, I'll go back to the trenches because I looked at that game and, man, K-State did not look very physical. And I think that's very, very different than I think we've become accustomed to seeing under Chris Kleiman, where they've been a really good team along the offensive line and a really good team along the defensive line. And I felt like Oklahoma State was kind of able to get after them a little bit and make them uncomfortable. So I look at this game and say, can KU's offensive line kind of do something similar to what they did against UCF? Maybe not to the same degree because Oklahoma State is more talented than UCF in the trenches, but can they really help the running game get established? Because this is a game where Jason Bean's going to have to throw more, right? It's just a fact of the matter. He's not going to throw twice in the second half. So can they get the running game going offensively so that Jason Bean can build off it, not be in third and long? I think that's the real big key for the offense. For the defense, it's about making Oklahoma State one-dimensional. Ollie Gordon, the running back, is really, really talented. He's really good, really fast, and he's 6'1" and physical. Can KU control the line of scrimmage, get some displacement along the line of scrimmage like they have in some of their better defensive games, and force, Ollie Gordon to try and make several guys miss at once? The gang tackling for KU was really, really good last week against UCF. Can they continue that? And then from there, it's all about making Alan Bowman beat you with his arm, and I think he's got a couple mistakes in him. And as we've seen from KU this year, they've done a really good job of capitalizing on those mistakes. And I think you could even argue too, they could have even more interceptions, right? OJ Burroughs has dropped 2 interceptions this year. Mello Dotson dropped one last week. So I think it's a game where if KU can really run the ball well and limit Oklahoma State's run game, they're going to get bowl eligible because that's going to be a really hard thing for Oklahoma State to overcome.
Switching gears to basketball, because the long-awaited IARP ruling is going to come down tomorrow. We are finally going to find out what this ill-fated committee, who will close up shop, they're making the announcement and then they're done. It's the IARP ceases to exist. Created after the whole FBI thing in 2017. Its last day is tomorrow. They're closing up shop after they announce what happens to Kansas. So, Michael, what do you expect will be what happens to Kansas basketball tomorrow?
I can't lie. I have no idea. This is the IARP has kind of started to establish some precedent here, right? Where they aren't really punishing current players. So that means really there aren't many postseason bans, not a lot of things that are impacting current players. We've seen a lot more coaching sort of punishments where I think coaches have recruiting implications that they can't go out and recruit certain days or they have to limit visits. I'd expect something probably similar to that. I'd be very shocked if there's a postseason ban. KU would probably have the strongest statement of all time if they get a postseason ban, because I think that generally, punishments have moved away from hurting players who had nothing to do with the punishments, and they're not even punishing the quote-unquote adults involved in the room. So for me, it's kind of a question of, okay, what exactly then do those punishments look like? Is it more of what we saw at the start of last season where Bill Self gets a couple games suspension and Curtis Townsend gets a couple games of suspension, and then they maybe can't bring in as many visitors. If it's like that, I think KU would obviously live with that. You get into the postseason bans, and I think that's where it probably would cross the line. But look, it's just hard to tell, because I think even though precedent has been set, it's also hard to say precedent is not going to be broken for a case like KU's.
Michael, do you think that this KU program overall, we're talking administration down to Self, down to the players, do you think there's more, almost a feeling of let's just get this over with, it doesn't even matter what the punishments are? Or do you feel like there's maybe some legitimate confidence that, hey, things are going to be fine, and when we go to media day a week from now, we'll be able to just say we're thrilled and we're ready for basketball, and now that's all we can focus on? What, I guess the general question is, what is sort of the feeling inside Allen Fieldhouse right now about where this is headed coming up tomorrow morning?
Oh, they are so ready to be done. I think everybody, anybody around the Kansas program right now is just ready for this to be over, because it's gone on way too long, right? You're talking more than half a decade. It's ridiculous. And so I think there's just a feeling of, let's get this over with, whatever the punishments are. Obviously, you'll deal with them and do it, right? Because there's no appeal process with the IARP. So it's you kind of get your punishment, you take it, and you're done. So I think there's certainly a lot of people that are probably very happy for the book to be closed on this, right? I think Travis Goff was ready for the book to be closed on this in July of 2022 when we spoke to him at Big 12 Media Days. It's one of these situations where it's gone on too long. I think people are just ready to kind of wash their hands of it. And I think the KU program is ready to stop having this be mentioned consistently, even if I'd argue it really hasn't impacted things too largely over the last kind of year or two.
That's the thing that's crazy to me about this entire thing, Michael, and I think is a statement to the strength of the KU program and Bill Self as a coach. And I don't mean to sound like a fanboy here, but you look at a program like Louisville, which has been through this, that program is in the toilet. They've been flushed out of the toilet. They have completely fallen apart. They can't recruit. They had to get a bottom of the barrel kind of coach because they couldn't afford it. I mean, that program has died essentially because of going through this. Arizona's had their struggles. LSU has certainly had its struggles. KU won a national championship in 2022. It's amazing that even going through this process, they have been able to remain at the very top of college basketball.
Yes, and I think, it's different when you're a blue blood, right? And you have more of a history to fall back on, where I think Arizona, you've still seen them have success, right? They've had guys go to the NBA. They've had some good tournament runs, but I think you're right. They're maybe just now reaching kind of the, I don't know about heights, but just the level of consistency in terms of competing for what is now the Pac-12, what will then, Arizona will join the Big 12 and compete for titles in the Big 12, So I think for KU, right, they've done a very good job of, I think, continuing to use the brand. And look, I think Louisville made a terrible coaching hire, right? I think regardless of what you want to say about the situation, the person they chose is not the right person. So that has really impacted them. We'll see how LSU does in the long term. And so I think KU, out of all the schools, has probably the strongest base to withstand a storm like this. And look, KU won a national title with this all going on. I think that speaks volumes about the ability for Bill Self to kind of be a chameleon, where the recruiting class that they won the title with was a bunch of kind of 3 to 4 year guys. They ended up being NBA prospects because they were developed over time. But, KU wasn't recruiting the Josh Jacksons of the world, right? The number one players, the Floyd Badungas now of the world. It was a lot more guys that are kind of that top 50 to top 75. So I think what you'll see now is KU continue to kind of climb back into those races for the Cooper Flags, for the Floyd Badungas, for these guys that are so widely coveted that maybe they had a harder time with 6 years ago when this thing started.
Last thing I've got for you, Michael Swain, who covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and joins us for Jayhawk Weekly every single Tuesday at this time on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. We know there's going to be some recruiting news or some commitment news for Kansas basketball coming up over the next couple of days. A couple of players KU is a finalist for, one of them probably going elsewhere, but that's not really a surprise. Maybe some good news for KU with one of those prospects out there, Rakees Passmore. But I wanted to ask you about this past Friday. I totally forgot until Thursday last week that late night was coming up. It just is something that I had not remembered was coming up that early. And, Flo Rida is there, who's a top 40 performer, all that. Obviously, fans love it, especially fans with families. It's a great event to get excited for the season. There weren't a ton of visitors for this year's class, though. Not a ton of huge, oh my God, can't miss. All the fans are going to chant their name kind of visitors this year. How useful is late night still as a recruiting tool?
That's a really good question. I think mostly it's useful to show recruits, hey, this is what this building looks like when it's full. Because it's hard to get guys, especially ones that are, from out of state or really kind of out of the immediate 3-hour region in terms of a drive. It's really hard to get those guys on campus for a Saturday game because they've got games there for themselves, right? That's really hard to do. So it's a good opportunity here before really high school basketball really, really picks up that, guys can come in and just see what it's like. And so I think that's a big thing. I don't think the performers really matter. The skits and all that don't matter. Even the scrimmage doesn't really matter, right? In terms of a recruit purpose. It's one of those events that I think as time has gone on, probably loses a little bit of luster because I think the coaching staff too, with Kansas football being better, you've seen them bring in a lot more guys for football weekends, right? LeBaron Philon was on campus for the BYU game. You go back earlier and they've had other guys come in for, I believe it was the Illinois game that weekend. Like they've decided that they're going to bring in guys for football games because the football crowds are so big that they can say, hey, look, this is what it looks like for a football game. Now imagine jamming 16,300 of these passionate fans into our basketball arena. And I think that is allowing them to maybe not have such a focus on one big weekend where they've got 7, 8, 9 guys in there, where they've really got to like spread their wings out and try and touch all these guys and get them all to feel comfortable. They can really focus on late night, have it be about 1 or 2 guys, focus on them, and kind of spread themselves out a little bit more over a longer period of time.
Nobody covers the Kansas Jayhawks better than Michael Swain, and he does it for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. Head to Fog.net for all the best coverage of all things KU. Be a 24/7 VIP. It is absolutely worth it. I'm on the message boards lurking all the time. It is absolutely worth the price of admission. You should find Michael on Twitter as well, at mswain247, and he joins us every Tuesday here for Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. Michael, we appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy what will probably be some big news tomorrow, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks. And Brendan, I always like it when you comment. Your comments are great.
Much too kind. Michael Swain from Fog.net. I know he's being earnest because Michael's a good dude, but I don't know. Much too kind. I try not to troll very often. I don't post much. You'll find me, though. It's if you're a VIP at 24/7 Sports, you will see my account. It is very noticeable. There aren't a lot of Dworzinskis out there. I'm just going to say that. It's pretty easy to find me. We've got 1 hour to go on 580 Sports Talk. We'll lead things off with our 580 Sports Talk headlines after the news. We'll get to your texts. We'll get to your YouTube comments, all coming up here on 580 WIBW. 1 hour left on 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday edition of the show. I'm Brendan Dworzinski alongside Dan Lucero. We are with you until 6 o'clock today. Lots to get to in this final hour of the program, including a busy day of our 580 Sports Talk headlines. A former Chief might be on the move. He's a veteran wide receiver, folks. He knows Patrick Mahomes.
Bring McCall home.
I would rather drink acid. No, absolutely not. No. We have battery acid Rita.
That's what those Dollaritas at the Applebee's look like in the commercials. I did. Like, they're showing those ads for those like all Saturday and Sunday. And I did. I said, man, that looks like antifreeze. And I tweeted, why does that look like antifreeze? And the first response I got was, because it's antifreeze. And I mean, you ask a silly question, you get a silly answer.
Maybe I don't want to sound stuck up or snooty. I really don't. Because if Applebee's is your thing, Applebee's is your thing. I get it.
Look,
I've been to the Bees more than my fair share.
Has been there for me in my life.
I just have a hard time imagining that many people were clamoring for the return of the Dollarita to the point where Applebee's went out and got the rights to use Crazy Train in their commercial, hyping it up.
They did. They're going to have to sell a lot of Dollaritas to pay for using Black Sabbath in that commercial.
The Osborne account, they get theirs. They're going to get their money, okay? More power to you if that's your thing.
Listen, like I'm a little, I know you are not a drinker. I am snobby about my margaritas. I can be very picky about margaritas. But I'll tell you what, Applebee's want to bring back the $1 Long Island iced tea. I'm in there like swimwear, baby. Bring those back.
Look, if you're going to get destroyed in a dimly lit bar, you might as well do it for $1 a drink. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, they got the game on. Riblets have never done me wrong.
I can say this because it's closed now, but I had said many times out loud that the Lawrence, Kansas Applebee's on Iowa Street was the saddest place on earth. It was the opposite Disney World. It was the saddest place on earth. I was in there one time, and I am not kidding. The music that was playing, it was Easter weekend, okay? The music that was playing in the establishment on a Sunday night was the audio track of the original animated Grinch movie. I'm not kidding. Someone was watching it on their computer and had it hooked up to the aux or something, but we heard "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch," and then it going into the narration of the movie over the speakers in the Lawrence, Kansas Applebee's. I'm not kidding.
Got to get that the guy who did the Applebee's song, whose name I don't even know. He's just the guy who does the Applebee's song. I don't care to learn his name either, so don't tell me, don't correct me. I don't want to know his name. I never want to hear his music again. But he's going to get back in the studio and do a sequel. Talking about Applebee's on Easter weekend. Listening to the Grinch and the place has a stench.
For real, though. For real. And again, I don't feel bad because A, they're not paying me, and B, that particular establishment is closed. That saddest place on earth.
That one. It's a chain. Not every,
They can't all be hits.
I've had good experiences at the Topeka Applebee's. So if you would like to pay us, Topeka Applebee's.
What's your favorite?
We'll come and down Dollaritas while we do the show.
What
in my line?
FCC, don't listen to this. Do you have a favorite sit down chain?
Probably Chili's.
Chili's? Okay.
Chili's the OG. Like that was when I was little kid. Like Chili's was like a treat.
Yeah.
That was a big night if the Luceros could make it to Chili's.
That was Friday.
And I could get an IBC root beer in the bottle.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah.
That was living.
TGI Fridays was ours when I was a kid. That was the it's a fun Friday night. We're going to Fridays. Currently, and it's a little different because it's like a steakhouse, but it's still kind of the same thing. It's Roadhouse. It's absolutely Roadhouse. I would eat there any night.
I've probably been to Roadhouse more recently than I've been to Chili's, but nah, man, the triple dipper, the Southwestern egg rolls.
You also want to talk about a place with some good music. The commercial ads for Chili's. I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby
all-time slapper.
Chili's. Listen, advertising works. That's all I'm saying.
It's true.
It absolutely works. If you want to participate and be a part of the show, speaking of food, Mark mentioning McRib is back. Did you hear about that?
I had heard McRib is back.
Yeah, after a whole thing where it was going away forever, 1 year later, it is back.
Wow.
Coming back anyway.
The George Foreman of dinner sandwiches.
Major New York Jet quarterback Brett Favre energy. Vance with a vote for Red Lobster in the YouTube comments as well. I've never been. Jake always freaks out when I say I've never been. I have this very clear memory of one time, I think on the air, Jake losing his mind and saying he and his wife were going to take me. I'll go. I'm not opposed. If you and Lindsay want to treat me to dinner, fine.
Diametrically opposed to fast casual seafood. Like, who would be?
Yeah.
Endless shrimp, man.
Yeah, sounds good.
It's so good.
Cheddar Bay biscuits, that sounds nice.
Yes, the biscuits are incredible. The biscuits are the thing that really does keep me from living out the Pimp C lyric about eating so much shrimp I got iodine poisoning. Like, I could really do that. I really feel like I could eat that many shrimp. But then you get the Cheddar Bay biscuits. So it's a trap.
It's almost dinner time. 5:12. I'm gonna eat in about an hour and a half when I get home. Counting down the minutes at this point. If you want to be a part of the show, hit us up. Text line number is 785-272-9429. YouTube comment section is on our YouTube channel, which you can find. If you go to YouTube and search 580 Sports Talk, it's the name of the show. You can't forget. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Subscribe. Check out the live video stream. Hang out in the comment section with us. And let us know whatever you're thinking about what we're talking about on the show today. We're going to go with some basketball news to lead things off today, Dan. Today was MIAA Basketball Media Day in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience. And the preseason MIAA men's and women's media and coaches polls came out for the year. On the women's side, the women always play first. So we're going to go with the women here. The Washburn women, they came in the two polls 8th in the coaches poll for this year. Central Missouri with 11 of 14 first-place votes, followed by Missouri Western. Pitt State 3rd, followed by Fort Hays State, Missouri Southern, Kearney, and Northwest. They are all ahead of Washburn. Then below the Bods, tied for 9th, Central Oklahoma and Emporia State. Northeastern State with Lincoln, Rogers, and Newman pulling up the rear in the women's coaches poll. In the media poll, Washburn, a little bit lower. The media voters not as high on the Bods this year. They come in 10th in that poll ahead of Newman, Lincoln, Northeastern, and Rogers. Central Missouri, they got 14 of, 21 first-place votes, followed by Western, 1 single vote for Pitt, and 3 votes for Kearney. It's always weird when this happens in a preseason poll. Nebraska Kearney got 3 first-place votes, yet finished 5th in the poll. That's odd.
Yeah, it is odd.
Doesn't happen all that often. On the men's side of things, a disparity as well here for the Ichabod men. The coaches poll, high on Brett Ballard's Ichabods. They've got Washburn 6th in the coaches poll. Ahead of them, Northwest Missouri State. Understandably, they are number 1. Emporia State 2. Hayes 3. Central Oklahoma 4. Missouri Southern coming in 5th. All of those teams, by the way, except for Southern, have at least 1 first-place vote. In the media poll, slightly further down on Washburn. Ichabods come in 1 point out of 6th in 7th place behind that same group as before. Lincoln also outpolling the Washburn men in the media poll. Fun year coming up for the Ichabods. We are, I believe, exactly 1 month away from the first game for the Washburn women. They will play in...
That's right. Shawnee, Oklahoma.
Shawnee, Oklahoma.
They open up with a couple of games in Shawnee, Oklahoma, the 10th and the 11th, while the men open up the Municipal Auditorium. They play the 11th and 12th.
Correct.
That first weekend. So, yeah, we're a month away.
And we will have coverage of all of those games over on our sister station, Country 106.9. Fun first couple of weeks. The women are going to travel twice, in fact, in the first 2 weekends.
Yeah.
They'll be in Oklahoma. They'll be in Quincy, Illinois. You know where Quincy is?
You've told me.
It's right on the river. Like, it's right on the Mississippi River I'm talking about here. Right there over, I don't know what highway that is, but you go north of I-70 in Missouri. Like, you go north of, Cameron, where the jail is. And then you can go all the way across the state on a 2-lane highway that's nicer than I-70 is going through Missouri. You cross over the river in Hannibal. You know, Mark Twain's, not birthplace, but he was from around that area, I think. And Quincy's right there on the Illinois side.
How about that?
So they'll be there playing a couple of games first week of the season. So, yeah, 1 month away from the start of MIAA basketball in the Washburn season.
All right, for my first headline, let's jump right into our MLB playoff roundup, shall we? Because there is ongoing action there in the bottom of the sixth at Target Field in Minneapolis. And the homestanding Twins are in trouble. The Houston Astros put up a 4-run first inning, thanks in large part to a 3-run home run off the bat of Jose Abreu. Alex Bregman has also homered. And the Astros lead the Twins 6-0 in Game 3 of this best-of-5 series. That series is tied at 1. Minnesota left the bases loaded in the 5th. They do have the leadoff man on to start the bottom of the 6th, but that Game 3 is ongoing. By tonight, we may know one of the participants in the championship series rounds. That's because the Texas Rangers are on the verge of eliminating the Baltimore Orioles. They have a 2-game-to-none lead in that series, Game 3 in Arlington later on tonight. Last night, we finally got what I had been begging for. We got good baseball playoff games.
Yeah.
We got an all-timer, perhaps, in the division series between Philadelphia and Atlanta last night. Philadelphia took an early 4-0 lead. Zach Wheeler was cruising, but the Braves got to him with a run in the 6th. Travis d'Arnaud hit a 2-run home run in the 7th. And then with 2 outs and a runner on in the 8th, Austin Riley, a go-ahead 2-run shot to put the Braves on top 5-4. They would win by that score after a sensational catch by Michael Harris led to a game-ending double play with Bryce Harper neglecting to tag up at first and being gunned down after the relay throw skittered away and alert Austin Riley, picking up the loose ball in the middle of the infield and firing to first to get Harper by a step. It was a remarkable way to end a baseball game and evens that series between those two NL East rivals at 1 game apiece. The Dodgers are in hell. They lost last night to the Arizona Diamondbacks 4-2. Once again, they were buried in the first inning. Bobby Miller gave up 3 runs in the first. The Diamondbacks have outscored the Dodgers 12-0 in the first inning of their 2 games in that division series. So Arizona leads at 2-0. Game 3 of both of those series will take place tomorrow. The Dodgers, 100 wins, but on the brink of another early exit in the National League playoffs.
That means we have to change the playoff format. Did you hear about that? We got to change the format. Braves and Dodgers are in trouble. We have to change baseball's format again for the playoffs.
We joked about this and nodded to this yesterday. But when you really look at it, like, there's a reason that the Braves are struggling a little bit. It's because, and why the Phillies are a tough out this time of year. There's a reason why the Diamondbacks have been tough to this point in the playoffs in a way that the Dodgers haven't. And it's just having enough reliable starting pitching.
Yeah.
Like there's a little more depth in the pitching rotation for the 84-win team compared to the 100-win team, which is a wild thing to say. But when you look at it, like on paper, like, no, that's true. Like, that's given, who's available and the status of guys. Yeah. The Diamondbacks have better starting pitching at this point of the year than the Dodgers do. Also, Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts are combined, I believe, 1 of 13 to this point in that series.
Not great.
Yeah, and you can't survive that in a short series if your 2 studs don't produce. I said earlier this year, I said it back when the Dodgers lost 2 out of 3 games to the Kansas City Royals. I said, this Dodger team doesn't feel like the Dodger teams that we've seen in recent vintage, where it was just waves of depth. It felt like they had no easy outs or weak spots in their order. It felt like they had just waves of arms they brought throwing 100 miles an hour at you and just dominated you. And those teams were built to excel in the playoffs and then just didn't, which is its own thing. But felt like this team wasn't quite that team. And even though they won 100 regular season games, they still kind of feel not quite as imperious as the Dodger teams that have been in the playoffs in recent years and even won a fake title in the COVID year in 2020. So people are going to say, and look, I'm not a fan of the expanded playoffs. I've spoken my piece on that. You guys know where I stand on that. But there are reasons why it has been a struggle for the teams that won 104 and 100 games in the National League relative to their matchups. And it just has to do, again, with A, the matchup, and B, the vagaries of a short series. It's inherently unfair to decide the longest regular season with the shortest and most random playoff, but it's what we got. So at the very least, if we can get some good baseball games out of it, I'll complain less. And we got 2 great ones last night.
Do you know what a toot bland is?
Thrown out on the bases like a nincompoop.
That's what happened to Bryce Harper last night.
Yep.
A toot bland. Can't. In all situations to not get caught on the base pads, that's the number one example.
I don't know how it became. I don't know how it became nincompoop and not like another pejorative.
So there's an official MLB.com page definition of this.
Mm-hmm.
It originated with Cubs blogger Tony Jewell in the year 2008. He used it as a method for another stat he created called Ryan Theriot adjusted on base percentage, where he took former Cubs second baseman Ryan Theriot's on base percentage and subtracted the number of times he got out on the base paths, which happened a lot. So yeah, there's where it came from. Bryce Harper had a very famous one last night. Next headline for me today. Let's go to the NFL for some injury news. First, involving the Kansas City Chiefs and their game coming up on Thursday night when they take on the Denver Broncos. We do know, and I need to pull this up right here to get the official Chiefs report for today. Travis Kelce was a DNP yesterday in an estimated practice, limited today. Same with Nick Bolton, same with George Karlaftis, dealing with that hamstring issue. Everyone else a full participant. That includes defensive tackle Matt Dickerson, who has been upgraded from limited to full participant today. As for the Broncos, they had 2 players who were DNPs, a lot of guys who were limited in practice. That includes limited outside linebacker Baron Browning, and they need him to be really good because their defense does not have enough dudes, and they need him to hit the quarterback a lot.
I think he's just off of IR. Him and Greg Dulcich have both been taken off of IR.
Yes, and Dulcich, in fact, wasn't even listed yesterday. He was limited today. Linebacker Justin Sternad, limited today with a back issue. That's not great. Safety Justin Simmons, hip issue. Mike Purcell, defensive tackle, ribs are injured. Center Lloyd Cushenberry, quad injury, limited. Their only good sign was that Javonte Williams was a full participant today. 2 players did not practice at all for the Denver Broncos, and one of these you are going to be you have never been less shocked than you will be by one of these injury designations, okay? Number 1 is defensive tackle DJ Jones. He's got a knee injury. He did not practice today. Frank Clark missed practice because he was sick. I wish I was kidding. Dude, take some Pepto. Please.
DNP, bubble guts.
Again, he's just always sick. How? How is it possible? Does he have Crohn's? Like, how is he just always ill?
You would think, like, if it was something that was diagnosable like that, we'd know, right? Like, David Garrard had Crohn's and had a very long NFL career. Like,
oh my God, that would suck. Oh, that would suck so much. I truly feel for anyone who has Crohn's or IBS or something like that. It sounds miserable.
Something digestive. Yeah, that's a tough one for sure.
And man, being a football player when you already have to be careful with your diet and workout and stuff.
It was a former Jake Diekman.
Really?
Another professional athlete who has Crohn's disease.
I did not
know
that.
The former Royals reliever, current Tampa Bay Ray. Yeah, hard to like function when that flares up.
Yeah.
Never mind perform as a professional athlete at a high level. So like I would feel terrible if that's what Frank Clark has and we've been making light of him always turning up as sick on the injury report. But I feel like we would also know.
You'd think.
Like if it was something like that caused him to miss so many practices. But no, Chris Jones kind of politicking to bring Frank Clark home on Twitter because Chris Jones loves to post.
He's trying to do his last dance. Bring my friends back.
You think? I'll bet you post game handshake. Frank Clark will.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He'll take some pictures with his former teammate. Say y'all
jersey swap.
Can we conditional 7th? Bring me back. I'm good for it in January, baby.
Yeah, it's all we need. It's all we need. But yeah, there's your Chiefs Broncos injury report. Just over 48 hours from kickoff Thursday night.
Next headline for me, the NHL season is underway. And by underway, I mean the first game of the season is happening right now.
Yeah, puck dropped about an hour ago, right?
Yes. They started the first game of the season at 5:30 Central or Eastern time. So 4:30 Central. They are playing in Tampa Bay, where the Lightning have a 1-0 lead over the Nashville Predators. 2 other games going on the first night of the NHL season. Chicago and Pittsburgh battling tonight in Pittsburgh. Are you, a Chicagoan, excited for the debut of Connor Bedard tonight, the next great one in the NHL?
No, but that's really just because I've abandoned the Blackhawks because they did some really horrible things organizationally, and a lot of the players who I really liked when they were good and a dynasty were heavily involved in treating their own teammate like garbage and sexually abusing them. And it sucks that I abandoned them. So I have a lot of friends who are excited and good for them, but I can't. I admit that it looks like flimsy because I already was only kind of a casual fan, but I can't do it anymore.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I just can't do it. I know a lot of people are very excited though.
Wait, well, flip side, we got a Let's Go Pens in the chat from
Hey,
785.
yeah.
On the
There we go.
On the text line. So shout out to that texter. The final game of the season opening triple header.
Oh, your two favorite teams.
Banner night in Vegas. The Golden Knights taking on the Seattle Kraken. They are the Vegas Golden Knights. Why aren't they the Vegas Raiders? Why did they go by Las Vegas? Wouldn't Vegas Raiders sound cooler?
Vegas Raiders.
Because the hockey team leaned into just being Vegas.
Yeah.
Wouldn't Vegas Raiders sound better than Las Vegas?
You know, I kind of like Las Vegas Raiders, but maybe I'm just used to it by now.
LV is a better abbreviation than VEG.
Veg.
That's why the hockey team uses VGK. Yeah. Kind of like the Columbus Blue Jackets. They don't use COL because the Colorado Avalanche use COL, so they are CBJ.
CBJ, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could see it either way.
Anyway, so that is going on tonight. Some sad news if you follow the NHL and you enjoy ESPN's coverage of the league. A very familiar face will no longer be part of ESPN's coverage. It was announced today that Barry Melrose has been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and he is retiring from his on-air role with ESPN. In a statement, the 67-year-old Melrose says, I've had over 50 extraordinary years playing, coaching, and analyzing the world's greatest game. It's now time to hang up my skates and focus on my health, my family, including my supportive wife, Cindy, and whatever comes next. There are few analysts that are as synonymous with their sport as Barry Melrose is with hockey.
Yep.
And he will be sorely missed on television, and certainly best wishes out to him for the best health, the best care, and the best support and the best life possible moving forward, because he has brought a lot of happiness and a lot of enjoyment of the sport he loves to a lot of people over the years. And that's a heck of a legacy to leave behind. For a lot of people, he is hockey.
Yes. I mean, again, when the Blackhawks were good, when they were winning championships every other year, I watched a good amount of hockey because they were fun and they won a bunch. But other than that, pretty much my entire life, the only hockey exposure I really had was watching Barry Melrose do highlights with, Linda Cohn or Steve Levy or Neil Everett on SportsCenter, and the fancy suits and the
slick back
cigars
hair.
and the slick back mullet and all that. And it's sad. I mean, that everyone grows up, and things you liked as a kid, especially when it was people you liked as a kid or a young adult, they get older, they move on, they retire, they pass away, whatever. And that's just a part of life. But it is kind of wild that I know for me, and I'm sure for you too, like all the people we watched that were on ESPN that were stalwarts are gone. Like there's very little of that left.
I think of the people who were the prominent voices in introducing their sport, or the voices of their sport, that I considered the authorities, I guess the best way to put it, the authorities on their sport on the Sports Authority channel, ESPN. You're thinking Dick Vitale, Lee Corso, Peter Gammons for baseball. Barry Melrose, absolutely one of those for hockey. My first exposure to hockey, he was a coach. Like I remember when he was coaching the Los Angeles Kings, when Wayne Gretzky played for them, and that didn't last terribly long. And he went to TV and never really left, except for a 16-game stint as the coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2008.
I remember that.
But all of those voices, I mean, they're still around, but they're not going to be around forever. And it does kind of remind you of your own mortality a little bit. But again, what better legacy to leave than to be the person that is symbolic of the sport that you love, where you covered it with such passion and such joy and such knowledge that people associate you with the sport. That's a hell of a legacy. So salute to Barry Melrose and all the best for the rest of his life.
I don't know what the Hockey Hall of Fame is like in terms of who and how many players they let in. I don't know if it's a big hall or a very small hall. I really don't know. But I saw the video that ESPN put out today commemorating the long career of Barry Melrose. Wayne Gretzky voiced it. He even went across TV network lines to voice that since he works for TNT. I thought that was really cool. And Steve Levy, who's done hockey on ESPN for forever and has been on ESPN forever, he said, you should put Barry Melrose in the Hall of Fame. Not because he had 700-something penalty minutes in his career and was a career minus 116 as a player. Not because he coached for 4 seasons on the bench in the NHL, but because for so many people, he was hockey. Like, hockey maybe at all because of Barry Melrose. And Mark Lazarus, who writes about hockey in Chicago, said for millions of casual fans for decades, like, that's how people got into hockey. And honestly, I agree. Like, if you are that influential to the sport, you should absolutely be honored for that and put in your sport's highest room of achievement.
At the bare minimum, there should be room in the United States Hockey Hall of Fame for someone so influential.
No, agreed. Yeah, I mean, it's Barry Melrose for hockey. I think Dick Vitale for college basketball. I think John Madden for football.
Yes.
Now, Madden had obviously a lot of success as a coach as well. A lot of success. But, like, that's who I think of as...
Dick Vitale had that one good year at Detroit Mercy.
Yeah, true.
I got him hired by the Pistons.
That's true.
He wasn't a total slouch on the bench.
But that's just who calls games. If there's a big game or a big event, that person will be there. That person will talk about it.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. I think you and I had that discussion a while back. There just aren't many of those anymore.
No, and I don't know who those are for the next generation. Like, I don't know who, like, the 10-year-olds, and if you've got a 10-year-old in your house, ask them and then tell us. 785-272-9429. Like, who are their voices of sports? Are they even on TV? Or is it like John Boy is your is your path to baseball? It's like him, or it's the Bailey from Foolish Baseball on YouTube or somebody like that. Like, those are your voices. Those are your authorities on the sport. But it's different.
And the thing too is those guys all have personality. Like, Barry Melrose is a big personality. We know Dick Vitale is a big personality. John Madden, larger than life. Like, I don't know, Jay Billis has been on TV for 20 years, probably will be for another 20. He's not that old, but, like, it's not interesting.
He didn't have any catchphrases.
No.
He didn't come up with PT Pier. He didn't come up with the all Windex team.
No. Like, that's not him.
He doesn't spell awesome with a capital A.
No, he doesn't have any of that. I like Troy Aikman, but Aikman ain't Madden.
No.
Like, that's not the same thing.
Yeah, like, I don't know who the football version is, because I don't get that from Tony Romo. Like, I think
Collinsworth
or Greg Olson, like, good at what they do. Yeah, but are any of them John Madden?
No, definitely not.
Is Pat McAfee going to be the voice of college football for the young generation? Because I shudder to think of what that means for the young generation.
I don't remember what your stance was on this gentleman as a commentator. The closest we've gotten to that in football in recent memory, it was John Gruden.
Yeah, it kind of was.
Dude, I loved Gruden in the booth. Tirico and Gruden was so good on Monday Night Football. So good.
Yeah, he had a cushy gig. He had to send some racist emails.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have done that, but hey. But no, best wishes to Barry Melrose as he spends more time with his family, working on his health. And what a career supporting hockey on ESPN. That does it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. When we come back, a former Chief might be on the market. I'm going to push back against a reunion, though. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan with you on 580 Sports Talk, 537 on this Tuesday afternoon, and now 538. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Some entries from the YouTube comments regarding media personalities who are just the voice of a sport or kind of the face of a sport to consumers. We've got entries from Vance and Mark on YouTube that say Mike Joy, if you're into NASCAR. I know that name. I know Mike Joy.
Yeah, like those are the play-by-play voices.
Yeah.
Like I when we talk about Barry Melrose, the NASCAR comparison I would immediately make would be Darrell Waltrip.
Waltrip, yeah.
Yeah, that would be the guy I would think of.
That makes sense. For it's not quite the same kind of sport we're talking about, but like JR and the King, Jerry the King Lawler and Jim Ross, like that. If you were into wrestling in the 90s into the 2000s, and most men and women were at some point, men specifically, but plenty of women too. You've imitated by God King. Like you've said that a million times in your life.
Yeah.
I think baseball's the hardest one to come up with one for. Like for a younger generation that is very online, the outside of like professional YouTubers, like what you're looking at, what, like Jeff Passan, who's an insider who roasts people on Twitter.
Yeah, well, I said Peter Gammons, right? So
Yeah.
that's not like an ex-player. That's just a reporter who was really tied in and spoke about the game. Like that's who I think of. But he was never even a booth analyst either, or a guy who would sit down and like break down highlights. Baseball's last answer to that was probably Tim McCarver, and like McCarver definitely lost his fastball later in his career, but like through the 80s and 90s, Tim McCarver was that voice, I think, for baseball fans. I don't like John Smoltz. I think actively does not like baseball. Like every time I hear John Smoltz on the World Series or a big game on Fox, it's just the vibe is I would rather be golfing. That is John Smoltz's vibe 100% of the time. So it's definitely not him. And I don't know. They haven't really put like A-Rod's really enthusiastic about baseball, but he's also
sucks.
Alex Rodriguez. Like it can't take him seriously in that role of like the on-air ambassador of his sport.
He also
I don't really know who that is for baseball anymore. Like the guy who I want to hear what he has to say about this game or this player or this play. I don't know if baseball has one of those right now. I really don't.
No.
Which is bad. That's very bad for baseball.
Basketball, and NBA does. NBA's got Chuck.
Yes, the inside the NBA crew.
The whole inside crew. Yeah, that basketball has it for sure. But yeah, I don't know that any other sport does right now.
I have a submission from the 785 for Buster Olney, who, again, I think is a great reporter. I think he's good on TV, but he's never been that, like, I'm going to tell you what happened in this game, or I'm going to break down this pitching matchup.
Yeah.
Or, like, not the analyst in the way that, like, Melrose was, or, like, Dick Vitale.
Selling like, guys who can sell you the game and sell the greatest parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is why this is a big deal. This is why this is cool. This is why you should be interested.
Right.
Those guys just had such a knack for it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the fact that we consume it in so many different ways. Like we now can consume it online or record it, DVR every game, or we, a million different people analyze things during the week, and the sports cycle is 24 hours. Maybe there's just less need for that.
Yeah.
But
Texter from the 316 brings up Bob Uecker. And I think that, like him and Joe Garagiola, like, and Tim McCarver, those were the guys in the 80s and into the 90s that I think were absolutely right answers to that question. Like witty and like fun to listen to, like a fun hang in the booth, but also you'd learn from them because they played the game at a high level. I baseball really lacks for that right now. Like, I don't know. Like, I enjoy Pedro Martinez on the, like, in the studio, but yeah, we just don't have, like, there's no analog to, frankly, baseball could use a John Madden or a Dick Vitale right now. Could use somebody who's talking in the booth of the biggest games about how great what you're seeing is, instead of, man, I wish I were in the back nine of Pinehurst right now, instead of watching these bums who couldn't carry Greg Maddox's jock. Because that's all you're getting from John Smoltz.
I wish we got more Ron Darling nationally. I don't know that he would quite be to that level, but he's a lot more. He clearly still cares about the game. Ron Darling is who I'm thinking of, right?
Yeah. No, Ron Darling does a good job. Like David Cohn's not bad. Keith Hernandez does great on the Mets games, but he's never had that national audience.
Yeah.
I thought Joe Morgan was good for a while, and then the Moneyball thing happened, and he kicked so hard against that he became a caricature.
Yeah.
Even though, like, Moneyball, like the stats nerds, they all loved Joe Morgan.
Yeah.
Like Joe Morgan.
Isn't that funny?
Joe Morgan's legacy as a player was burnished by the whole Moneyball revolution.
Here's an interesting one from Darren in the YouTube comments. Thanks for hanging out with us, Darren. It says Bob Costas. That is interesting to me because Costas is like the last of a generation of the baseball poets, if you will.
That's
like
a
I
good way
don't
to put
really like Bob Costas, but there's something about listening to him call a game. Because which game did he do last night?
He's on the Diamondbacks Dodgers series.
Diamondbacks?
Yeah.
There's still something about the way he describes a game that feels very old-timey in a good way.
Yes.
Even though I don't really like him.
He does. He feels like the last heir to that Scully, Jack Buck, Jack Brickhouse, Harry Carey in his own way, generation of baseball play-by-play voices. And I appreciate him for that, even if I think, and look, it happens to everybody. This is not necessarily a knock, but Bob Costas calling a game in 2023 is not the same as Bob Costas calling games in the 1990s.
Yeah.
Like, you lose your fastball over time. It happens to all of us. It will happen to us.
Yeah.
Some will say you never had a fastball, and I will say that's mean. Why did you have to say that? That hurts.
Why did you have to be so right? You didn't have to be correct.
That's hurtful.
All right, we are going to eventually get to McCole Hardman. In fact, we're going to do it right after this break on 580 Sports Talk. Sometimes it feels good to be right. Even when you knew you were going to be right with a prediction, you just knew it was going to happen beyond a shadow of a doubt. It still feels good to take a victory lap. I told everyone that McCole Hardman was going to fail with the Jets. I knew this was not going to work. Now, granted, I thought that's because Aaron Rodgers might have killed him. I thought that might be why it didn't work for McCole Hardman in New York. But it sounds as though McCole Hardman may be on the way out. There was a report earlier today. This is from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. Says the Jets are looking at options for McCole Hardman, including a potential trade. Hardman was inactive Sunday. That was a healthy scratch and has not been in the plans despite signing a 1-year, $4 million free agency deal with upside up to $5.5 million. The Jets can find him a new home and more playing time.
Can I read his quotes?
Please.
So he did an interview with ESPN last week expressing his frustration with his lack of opportunities. He's played only 24 snaps this season.
One catch, I believe.
I think that's right. 1 catch for 6 yards in 4 games because he was inactive last week.
Good stuff.
This is what McCole Hardman told ESPN last week. Quote, I'm probably the best in the league in space. Maybe the coaches see something different. I'm just waiting for the opportunity to present itself. I think when I was in KC, I proved that I was probably the most dangerous guy on the jet sweep, or whether it be on the end around or on the screen. I think I proved year out that I was the guy you had to worry about doing that.
Oh, teams had to worry about you, McCole, but I don't think it was the opponents.
Man, if he were really the best in the league in space and you're a quarterback deficient team like the Jets, they'd be giving him the ball all the time.
He's just not good. I mean, fast.
Yeah, really fast. And look, I do think that it is a little odd, but also it's a function of there being better receivers on the depth chart in front of him. Like, you're not going to get targets over Garrett Wilson. He's not going to get targets over Alan Lazard.
Lazard's actually playing pretty well.
Yeah, and he's not going to get targets over CJ Uzama. So at best, you're the 4th option in that offense.
And frankly, like, Randall Cobb's old and gets hurt all the time, but
Randall Cobb's got a track record.
Yeah, and he's still trustworthy. He just isn't going to play a whole lot, but he can catch the ball when you throw it to him. What does McCole do for you? Now, here's the interesting thing. 1, no. The Chiefs are not bringing back McCole Hardman. That is not solving any issue in the wide receiver room. Do not bring that to me. No. I don't want to hear it. Absolutely not. The Rams made a trade today. The Rams sent wide receiver Van Jefferson to the Falcons, along with a 7th rounder, and got a 6th in return. I think Van Jefferson is a better player than McCole Hardman. Now, at his best, Van Jefferson 2 years ago was better than McCole Hardman. He has not been anything spectacular since then. And all you got was a 6th and 7th round pick swap in order to get rid of him / to get him. What do you get from McCole Hardman if you trade him right now? I guess it depends on the situation. Like, if you're a team that says, hey, we need someone who can return kicks and we just need speed. We need to find speed somehow. Well, then maybe you go get him. Maybe that is what you do, and that is worth moving a 7th or, moving a 6th to go get him or whatever. I don't know, but I don't blame the Jets for wanting to move on, especially if they're not going to use him.
And if you can get a 6th, 7th pick swap, which is kind of what has been the going rate for players other teams don't want. Like, that was the going rate for Randy Gregory in the Denver trade with San Francisco. That was a going rate for Van Jefferson. They just don't have room for him in the mix right now. They targeted him 15 times in 5 games. He had 8 catches, 108 yards. Like, I think there's still something there. It's just one more guy to get targets that isn't Kyle Pitts that drive people crazy in Atlanta.
Did you see the stat this weekend that Kyle Pitts is the same number of career touchdown catches as Sam Laporta, and Sam Laporta has played 5 career games?
Yeah.
It's not great.
No. I think you probably get a pick swap, a late jump, 10 or 15 picks for McCole Hardman, because we're being hard on the guy, but I do think there's a skill set there that you can potentially utilize. I just think it's a redundant skill set for the Chiefs as it currently stands, because they've already got a jet screen, jet motion, hand around, tunnel screen sort of guy who can't stay healthy. They already have that guy. His name's Kadarius Toney.
Yeah. Who's probably a better, higher upside player.
And if you want, I mean, Richie James is going to get healthy, come off the IR, and he's a better player than McCole Hardman. And Montrell Washington is returning kicks and punts, and he's better at that than McCole Hardman ever was. So I don't see the need. I understand, like, well, he knows the offense, and the wide receiver group hasn't played great.
And didn't do a whole lot for him while he was in town.
Yeah. Like, he had one great game last year against the 49ers. But when you talk about McCole Hardman's tenure in Kansas City, it should be viewed as a disappointment. And they have made him redundant with the players they have on the roster. There's no sense in bringing him back whatsoever.
By the way, speaking of that Van Jefferson trade today to the Falcons, I wanted to go look at who the Rams have on their depth chart, because I know a few of their wide receivers. I wanted to make sure I got a full picture. Cooper Kupp, obviously. Puka Nacua, who's had an incredible
breakout star, yeah.
Tutu Atwell, who's finally playing, period, and is okay. Like, he's a nice compliment.
Built like a ballerina, but yeah, he's really fast, and yeah.
Ben Skoranek, who looks exactly like someone named Ben Skoranek. You would, like, if you vision them in your head, that's exactly what he looks like. Austin Trammell, I don't know who that is. I've never heard of that man before in my life.
Played shortstop with Lou Whitaker and the Tigers in the 80s.
Allen Trammell.
Ah, thank you. I wouldn't get that wrong for real, guys. I'm just telling you right now that was a joke.
Guess who the 6th wide receiver on their roster is? Speaking of former Chiefs.
Oh gosh, is it old boy dropped the ball all the time,
Yeah,
DeMarcus Robinson?
DeMarcus Robinson. Look, man, all the credit in the world to DeMarcus Robinson that this dude is still getting jobs.
Keep getting them checks, DeMarcus.
That is back-to-back years he has signed as a free agent somewhere.
Get them checks. Beats digging ditches, man.
Yeah. You what's your birthday again?
September 22nd.
His is one day before yours. He's my age. He's 1994. September 21st, 94. Yeah.
So we are not birthday twins, alas.
He is.
I'd have to take it easier on him if we were.
He is a mere 19 days younger than I am. Yeah, hey, that's the sign of a great quarterback, is you can get that kind of wide receiver paid in free agency. That's a credit to Patrick Mahomes. We've got one more break to get to. We'll come back, wrap up 580 Sports Talk with the final word after this. Time to wrap up 580 Sports Talk. Let's get to a final word, Dan.
We opened the show today by discussing the possibility of a contract extension for L'Jarius Sneed, and by proxy, talking about how much it might impact the Chiefs' defense moving forward if L'Jarius Sneed were not a part of the long-term plans. That's a little bit of a 180 from where we were during training camp, where Sneed had a worrying knee issue that was keeping him out of camp, keeping him out of practice, keeping him out of preseason games. All Sneed has done in 5 games this year is play like one of the best defensive backs in the league and emerge as Steve Spagnuolo's most trusted cover corner. That's a pretty big leap. It shows you that there's a major impact that L'Jarius Sneed makes on this team. Whether or not he's back for 2024 and beyond remains to be seen, but in 2023, that dude's having a year, and he's a big part of the reason why the Chiefs' defense has risen its game.
Final word for me is that sometime tomorrow, likely in the morning, we are going to find out exactly what the consequences are from the IARP for Kansas basketball. 6 years after the initial start of the FBI investigation into college basketball, we are finally going to get some sort of closure for the final outstanding case. I'm hoping it is nothing all that serious for KU, because you know where my allegiances lie. But by the same token, I'm just glad it's about to be over and we are going to move on from this. Hopefully, we can all happily, peacefully move on and say, well, we're glad that era is over with. Let's all just move on. I'm sure that is how every fan base is going to feel, regardless of how the penalties are handed out tomorrow. That does it for 580 Sports Talk. We've got plenty to get to on tomorrow's show. We'll talk about the KU IARP decision. We'll talk to Tim Fitzgerald. All that and more is coming up tomorrow from 2 until 6. For Jake LeBon, for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. This has been 580 Sports Talk.